Because you've got powerful legs. How did you get the physique? Was it gym or how did you get the physique?
I've always been.
She's actually not got powerful legs. Do you shower in your dressing room? Do you have a shower on the day of a fight or not? Tell us about the tattoos.
Shut the fuck up, you little prick.
But then I've got the Phoenix.
Hey, prick.
So I'll take it from Bob every day of the week.
Absolute disgrace.
That's your knowing mind.
Move him out of here, Darren.
Ricky Hatton didn't go over for his fighter because he risked getting abducted and sold into sexual
I never said that.
Both have been rape victims. I'm not watching Frank Buglioni live on Saturday night. You're out of your mind.
Jesus Christ, get yourself a life.
He's actually a priest.
Yeah.
It's because his brother John Fury eye gouged him.
What have I told you all this time? He's going to end up sucked out, fucked out, looking for a handout.
Boxing nutters messenger group. I'm gonna be the king.
J-Pump. You know what I'm saying?
Well, hello everybody and welcome to the 540th edition of the Boxing Asylum Nuthouse podcast. I'm your host Steve Wellings and joining me on the call we have Andy Patterson, going live on YouTube from 8 o'clock every Sunday evening. The ad-free Patreon RSS feed updates shortly after the show concludes. Hello to everyone listening through the week on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube and Sports Social. Don't forget to leave a review on the podcast player of your choice throughout the entire month of September. Nothing less than 5 stars is acceptable. Just a couple of grizzled old hardcores tonight. Matty is suffering from 1980s bad AIDS. Unfortunately, we wish him well. Rapping Rob Kelly's touch and go at the moment, touching cloth. Who knows if he's going to appear? The lesser spotty Aussie Smith. We haven't heard from him in a while either. I have thrown the link out into the chat box there. So if you fancy coming on and talking shit for a little while, for as long as we last, which might be about 15, 20 minutes at this rate, then feel free. I see Ames in the chat. Ames, if you want to jump on, you are more than welcome. Anybody else? Matt Butters is there as well. The link is in the chat. Come on, tell us what you want to talk about. We are happy to discuss anything with you. Got Joyce coming up later next week, and in fact against Zhang in the big rematch. Will it be repeat or revenge? We've got Richardson Hitchens as well. Might even talk a little bit of Canelo Charlo, even though that's the following week, and the PBC undercard as well. I'll tell you where we'll start off, Andy. I'll tell you exactly where we're going to start off this weekend.
Why the corridors got emptied last night just before 9 p.m. when the Dispatches documentary came out, mate. Oh, I'll not be on tomorrow. Why is that, boys? They've all disappeared.
Everyone's gone AWOL.
I know, that's what I'm saying. You're talking about like the bad age of Matty and that, you know. I don't know what's been happening there. Maybe he's been frequenting the same joints as a certain, funny haired guy, Bob Geldof's pal. don't know about that, mate. Rob Linter's no 8:45 last night. I'm not on the pod. The Moral Boys, something's come up, so I don't know, mate. They all seem to be running for cover these days. I don't know what's happening.
Thoughts and prayers. They're getting out of Dodge before the Titanic sinks. God help them, I say. We're going to start off tonight in the American Bank Center in Corpus Christi, Texas. This was on Friday evening. A few cards on Friday, a few on Saturday as well. I watched a lot of boxing. It was still starting to mingle into one. So hopefully I can remember a bit of the stuff and use my notes as a guide as well. Luis Alberto Lopez needed no notes whatsoever. He still has the IBF World Featherweight title after scoring a unanimous decision win over Joet Gonzalez. Scores of 116, 112, more realistic, 118, 110 as well. Only the 2 rounds to Gonzalez and Robert Hoyle's card. 117, 111 for Steve Weisfeld as well. Throughout the night, Andy, ESPN kept framing the main event as Joet Gonzalez's final opportunity to win a world title. And the way they called it was almost as if they were attempting to fulfill that prophecy. Mark Kriegel had him winning the fight. Asuna sort of saying he was winning the fight as well. Tim Bradley, right until the scores came out, said it was close, and then all of a sudden he said it wasn't close. The scores were all in Lopez's favour, as I read out there. A couple were fairly wide. Is that the kind of fight that you saw as well?
No, I thought it was a wee bit kind of more competitive fight. I thought it should be a wee bit more tighter on the card. I think 116, 112 was probably a fairer score, possibly. I thought Lopez mostly was on the front foot. He's applying the pressure, but Gonzalez was happy to prove he was no sudden duck. He was thrown back. He had his moments where he exposed Lopez's lack of head movement. He was finding right hands in there as well. So as I said, he was having a fair bit of success with that. And I said Lopez's head just a wee bit too static. However, I did think the punches that Lopez was landing, it was good in the eye. They looked heavy. When they did come in bursts, for example, they seemed to be kind of having an effect. It kind of got Gonzalez covering up. He wasn't really responding very quick to it. It kind of allowed Lopez to kind of slip off to the side and kind of suckle the ring from time to time, buy himself a bit of breathing time. But I don't think Gonzalez reach and just try to pick that kind of single counter, that type of thing, and that as well. So it was, as I say, it was a decent enough fight, to be fair. But I just think the bursts from Lopez, the punching and that, like the 3-4 punch combos from time to time, and then obviously the single shots, and he would get out of distance. I think Gonzalez did try to push it late as well, especially in the 12th round, try to kind of dog it out. But Lopez pretty much kind of eased it through toward the end of the fight, however. But I even think, even though it was competitive in moments, I don't think Lopez was really totally, flustered as such. But I did think he won the fight. Maybe not as wide as some of the judges had it, but I think it was close enough in the cards anyway.
Yeah, I thought Lopez was a worthy enough winner as well. Probably 8-4, 7-5, something like that. The 118, 110 was a little bit wide. MB there saying I didn't score it, but the contrast between what Kriegel had and the actual scores was big, which was the story of the weekend. We saw quite a few fights like that across ESPN, across DAZN, where the judges have come up with one thing and the people at home or the commentators have come up with another. I know Tim Bradley did this little segment in between. Oh my God, the ESPN card must have gone on for about 7 hours. I never thought it was going to end. I had to start ripping it onto 3-speed at some point. Bradley had been talking to the commission, and he'd got all these things on effective scoring, and how to score a fight and effective aggression and ring generalship. It was actually quite interesting. But so he was trying to score them. But again, there was a disparity between what we thought we were seeing and what the officials were coming up with.
Right, well, the copy of that fight I had, mate, but to be fair, was it was one of those ESPN ones that kind of cut off between rounds right to the commercial break. Right. So I got nothing what was getting said. In between rounds, I see no visuals or anything like that. It was just complete ESPN commercial breaks. I didn't know what was getting said at that point, but I try and really no listen to kind of Bradley and even Kriegel. But the thing with Bradley and that is, I'm like, dude, just call the fight. So yeah, he's I wasn't really kind of paying attention as such, but I did notice there was a bit of kind of outcry as such, especially on the socials in that regards to the 118, 110 scorecard. I didn't think Gonzalez has really got much of a fair shake, but as we said, it was just the kind of the spurt for Lopez. I think it was more eye catching, and definitely the punches that he was landing were certainly the heavier of the two.
Yeah, I know Fernando Vargas, his son Emiliano Vargas, was on the undercard as well, and he was talking about sparring with Lopez and just how hard he punches. We've seen Lopez's style. We know it's very unorthodox. I saw him up close and personal when he was fighting Michael Conlan. He just throws these crazy shots from really out wide. It's not technically very good. Gonzalez, on the other hand, is a very good technical boxer, very good jab, overhand right, plunders forward. On paper, he's a puncher, but doesn't really seem to hurt too many people. Lopez, very unorthodox. What he does isn't textbook whatsoever. We all know that. But one thing I noticed about him as well, in fights, the Flores fight, similar, maybe Warrington, although he was suffering with Warrington's style and the head clashes and the cuts and stuff like that, about his punching power. Does he retain that punching power late in the fight? Now, Michael Conlan, we didn't get a chance to see that. Isaac Lowe, we didn't get a chance to see it either. Is he a 6-round fighter? I don't mean maybe stamina or energy-wise, or maybe even concentration-wise. Sometimes in the last 4 or 5 rounds, we see he doesn't seem to have as much on his punches. And you mentioned about throwing in spurts and in bunches there. He was, in the last few rounds, he was leaving it to the last 10, 20 seconds, the old Arthur Abraham trick to throw shots to try and win the round. But his punches didn't seem to be having as big an effect on Gonzalez, as they were early on. Does the power start to wane late on naturally for Lopez?
Something I might keep an eye on in future fights, to be fair, mate. The one thing about this fight coming into it, I was I don't know if I mentioned it last week, but as you know, there's a couple of torrent sites that I've got a kind of prediction league on it. And I had picked this one as a distance fight because I just fancied Gonzalez. With just, even though he never seems to kind of go over the hump, he's always kind of good, solid, and he always kind of give a good account of himself. And I think as well as he was a wee bit kind of underappreciated. I think many people thought he would get stopped. But as I say, he gave Lopez some problems as well. I don't know if it was maybe Lopez maybe showing him a wee bit of respect as well, because as I say, he was getting caught with shots and he was being forced to move. Maybe he was just buying moments in that as well, just try to buy breath or whatever. That maybe the weight's maybe an issue. We just don't know. But certainly it's kind of something that maybe kind of keep an eye on in the future fights. And that, especially as you say, I mean, this Gonzalez is always good value for like testing guys for going the distance, that type of thing. But at the same time, I think when you look at Lopez and that as well, as you go to look at him at a higher level, would he, against like some maybe Robeisy Ramirez, that is probably the kind of acid test you want to see him in. If it does go past 6-7 rounds, has he got the gas? Because Ramirez seems to be a wee bit of a special talent. Even after that pro debut, he seems to have come on leaps and bounds a wee bit. Could be the future of that division as well. You just don't know, but. Lopez, as I say, is maybe the power. This doesn't carry too much into the kind of latter half, but maybe as well. Maybe he felt he was coasting that fight and he felt he could. But as I say, he was forced to kind of put the foot down a little bit as well, because Gonzalez was trying to test him late, and he had to hold his ground in that as well. So.
Yeah, I'm just having a little look through the rankings here. Actually, Lopez, the boys in the chat, I think it was Michael Thompson. Yeah, he said he's got a fun style. How has he not been chinned yet? But you do find that with these kind of guys, it works for them until it doesn't. Whenever the reflexes start to go and they're just staying in the pocket for that half second too long, that's when people catch up with these kind of guys. Lopez reminded me a bit of Teofimo on Friday, the way he fought. Says MB. I was looking up in the rankings there to try and find Ruben Villa. Actually, he's slotting in at number 4 for the WBC. I'm trying to see if he's in any of the other rankings. Not highly. If he is 11th in the WBO there, 11th in the WBA as well. Nice fighter, Ruben Villa, Andy. He was on the undercard, but I think it's worth mentioning him because he obviously has a win over Luis Alberto Lopez early on in his career. If he's getting up high in those rankings of the IBF, where he is... he's 11th, sorry, with the IBF, yes, below Michael Conlan, but maybe that needs to be updated. They could maybe try and shoehorn in a voluntary or something and pitch it as Lopez defending the title and trying to get the win over somebody that he's already beaten, given the fact that Villa has also been signed by Top Rank as well recently. Maybe they've got an eye on that type of fight, maybe a rematch between Lopez and Villa, and then move on, like you say, to unifications possibly.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, where would you say Villa was ranked about in the rankings?
Well, he's ranked down at 11th by the IBF. He's highest with the WBC. We've got Ray Vargas as the champion, and then Figueroa holds like an interim title there. But I'm thinking maybe
mandatory though. But who's the mandatory?
For the IBF, is Raya Abe is number 1 at the moment. He's the guy who beat sent Kiko into retirement, I think, isn't he? So maybe he'll push his way forward before that opportunity for Villa. I just think the way they're pushing him forward put me in mind of the built-in storyline. The narrative's already there. They might try to make that, but given he's out of the top 10 altogether, it's maybe unlikely.
Yeah, you just don't know, mate. I mean, you've seen guys outside the top 10 getting there. Obviously, if you're in the top 15, you can always get the call. I'm just trying to think about the mandatory in that as well. I was just, obviously, you got that Mirko Cello, who was on the Showbox card. He fought during I think it was the same day, actually. I think he would be a good fighter. Obviously, different promotions, but he's aggressive, come forward fighter and that as well. As I think he might give Lopez a very good test. Ramirez, I think, obviously unification if it can get made. Ray Vargas, I ain't clamouring to see that one anytime soon, to be fair, mate. And I don't think Eddie, what's the latest with Lee Wood, actually? Who's he meant to be fighting? I don't think Eddie would be fancying making that as a unification.
Wood's fighting Warrington next month,
Is it Warrington? I forgot about that fight, actually. So, yeah, go through the rankings here myself, actually. Tomoki Kameda, pause, it's a decent enough scrap. Kameda maybe be kind of over the hill. Nick Ball, actually, that would be there could be a blood and guts battle, that one, to be fair. Nick Ball, he's like, he's very thick set for the weight, all action, relentless. You want to talk about Lopez maybe, but his lack of power late. Maybe lack of stamina possibly. Maybe that'll get called into question. Nick Ball could be your guy there, mate. He can answer those questions because, as you say, Ball would just keep coming for him.
Nick Ball comes forward. He throws a lot of shots. He does damage to people. You mentioned Robeisy Ramirez there, Andy. We last saw him beating up that robotic Japanese guy on the Inoue Fulton undercard. A unification with Ramirez, who's the WBO champion, would make sense. It would be an in-house fight. Ramirez, quite similar to Lopez, really, is a fighter who looks explosive early on. Maybe runs out of ideas as fights go on. A little bit of a Cuban thing there. A lot of them have one trick, but it's a really good trick. But once better fighters suss it out, I'm not saying Lopez would be able to, as you say, it gets a bit repetitive and they start to realise the different directions they're moving in, the footwork, the way the Rigondo was always notorious for dipping out a certain way, and against lesser fighters, he wasn't able to get away with it. But when he fought Lomachenko, he got caught out. Ramirez looks $1 million early on, but then as the fights go on, he does tire a little bit. He throws the looping shots. He does tend to get a bit more reserved. You would imagine after 6 rounds, Lopez against Ramirez could be a really interesting fight. And why can't Bob Arum make that? They're both signed under his promotional outfit.
Yeah, it was that as well, mate. But then obviously, again, it might just come down to money and that, but that shouldn't cost too much to make that one, to be fair. Unification, I mean, they're not going to stick that on pay-per-view. ESPN should have enough money to make that fight potentially happen. Maybe be right about Ramirez. Maybe he runs out of ideas. Maybe kind of, the kind of same trick pony supposedly. You need to remember as well as he's almost 30 and that. I mean, forget how many amateur fights the guy's had, and you just don't know how close he is to being over his prime and that. Some of these guys that he's fought have, let's be honest in that as well, as if they're not exactly fresh guys, are they? So. And obviously he's better, than them anyway. It wouldn't really matter. But as I says, you want to see him maybe potentially fighting a guy close to his peak. Lopez is that opponent. As I say, I've named a couple of fighters there who I think could, or who we think could probably give Lopez a test. And Nick Ball's one of them. Kameda might give him, good workout. But Ramirez, Lopez, definitely would love to see that fight. Easy enough to get made potentially, but you just don't know what the guys are going to be asking for in that as well. But I see Conlan still. Is Conlan no retired now? I just see
No. He's meant to be coming back. I heard. I'm not sure what weight he is. Yeah, because he's going to get a new trainer. Because they were talking about him staying in the Adam Booth gym, but going with the other fella, the Asian fella. I can't remember his name, to be honest, and training with him. And then he was all set to come back, from what I heard, in the beginning of December, because they wanted Tyrone McKenna to fight. Should have been this Saturday just gone against that Esposito in Dublin, but the BUI pulled that because of security issues or whatever the official line was, I don't know. And then McKenna was going to fight Lewis Crocker, Podrick McCrory was going to fight on the card, all in the Odyssey, and Conlan was going to be on it as well, but obviously that could, they maybe push that aside now. I know Jamie has it booked for the first week in December, and Mick was supposed to come back. I said at the time, Andy, I don't think he'll retire. I don't think he'll want to go out like that against Lopez. I think he'll truly believe that he can still win a world title. Whether he can or not, I don't know. But he'll believe he can, and he'll want to keep going and have one more run at it, I think. And they'll try to build him up towards something, because he is still a ticket seller. And I don't know where he fits in with the featherweight ecosystem. I mean, where does he fit in for you? We have to be realistic about his abilities, really, because I'm looking at him on BoxRec here, and he's in at number 17. I mean, he was seconds away from beating Wood, got knocked out at the end. Against Lopez, he was struggling with the power, got absolutely iced in the 5th round. Then if you look at the respective performances of guys like Joet Gonzalez, like realistically, a few years ago, you'd say Joet Gonzalez and Conlan, man, they're maybe not miles apart, but you'd put Mick sort of above that. Isaac Lowe, you wouldn't look at Conlan being on that same kind of level. Gabe Flores, yet those guys have gone farther in fights than Mick did with Lara. I know it's styles make fights and all that, and Conlan really didn't fight the correct kind of fight that night. He stood in the pocket and tried to go toe-to-toe with Lopez, which wasn't the best strategy. He probably should have tried to box him. But the point is, comparatively speaking, the way Gonzalez performed against Lopez on Saturday night and the way Flores hung in there again late on, Lopez's power didn't hold up compared to the performance Mick put in. Does it make you question the levels of these respective fighters, Conlan in particular?
Yeah, possibly. I'm also trying to think as well as, whoever Conlan comes back against, it's going to be safe, isn't it? So, or it's got to be a safe fight. I mean, if he's going to come back and try to kind of get back in the world title mix, then he's got to be targeting someone to win within the 15. And I'm thinking, who about the South African guy who got iced off that Rakimov? Is it Zinga Fuzela?
Fuzela, yeah.
And again, potentially a safe-ish opponent. He's ranked in the top 15 with IBF. Conlan's in the top 10. So, I might get him back in the mix. I do notice the number 2 ranking is vacant, so there could be an eliminator kind of, there to be kind of contested if you've got the right money or the right connections, if you put the right bid in, possibly with the IBF, who knows. But yeah, but to be fair, mate, I think we said after after the last fight, to be fair, after how it ended, and that, I think it's time to call it a day, in my opinion, at least. You know, I'm not here to tell him because he's got to put food in the kid's mouth, sort of type of thing. I don't live in his pocket at the end of the day, so I don't know what his circumstances are, but got to be realistic as well. And after what we've seen and what we have seen over the years, and that, you know, it's been a long career. I think you should call it quits, but again, it's his career at the same time. So, all the best to him. As I say, hopefully it's the right fight, the right confidence builder if he's going to come back. But again, just pulled up his rankings here, just pulling up, you know, talk about safe names, mate, or, you know, a safe-ish fight. You got Anselmo Moreno there, completely washed, can't he punch, you know, so...
I think they'll believe there's one more going in. There's still currency in that name. I think obviously a percentage of fans will drop off. The fact that he lost in the world title fight, because that was the culmination of the 3 fights after Wood, and we all saw the Wood fight, and everyone believed he could do it. So there's going to be a drop off, you know, 10%, 15% or whatever. That still leaves 6,000 or 7,000 people in the Odyssey. I think they'll do what they did last time. They had 3 fights in between the loss to Wood. Who was it? He fought Mariaga. I was at that one. Then he fought Guerfi and iced him. He might have had a third one. I can't remember if he did or not, to be honest. And then they built him back up for the Lopez fight. I think they'll do something like that with him in between. Des says Conlan is a strange one. He fights like a puncher. I also think he's fragile. Years in the amateur, sleeping in plastic suits, making weight over several days. Can do that to your body. Another thing Des said there as well, Conlan and Booth have definitely split. Yes, they have. I believe he's going to America. See, a lot of people were saying that, Des. Whenever we were at the Falls Park, the word was he was going to America and he was testing out different trainers and he was talking about going to Buddy McGirt. I'm not sure how that will work, though, to be honest, Andy, because Buddy McGirt's based in Florida. And do you remember when Conlan turned pro, he was based on the West Coast with Manny Robles. And Robles now stylistically didn't suit him. Robles had him fighting come forward kind of style. Booth pulled him on the back foot a bit more, apart from when he fought Lopez, strangely enough, and he went straight at the puncher. But the point being, he came back home again and he wanted to base himself in England because it was closer to Ireland, because he's got a wife and a young family and he was homesick, etc. So why would anything change now? I'd be surprised if he went back to America again, to those long camps, those homesick camps, and especially now he's sort of in his 3rd run towards world titles. The move to America, it's not out of the realms of possibility, but I'd be surprised if he went back there again.
I'm trying to remember who's Buddy McGirt, the trainer of some British fighter again. Is it?
It's
a prospect, isn't it?
Is it not Pacheco?
It's not Whittaker. It's not Whittaker, no.
No, Whittaker's Sugar Hill, isn't he?
That's it. Who's?
Tell us in the chat. I can't remember.
Can't mind.
Is it Aziz or no? Not Aziz. The other, yeah. Is it
Dan
Aziz?
Yeah,
Dan Aziz. Yeah, sorry, yeah.
Dan Aziz, aye. So I don't know what Dan Aziz is doing. Is he out there? So maybe that might be some sort of kind of familiar face at least, not. But yeah, you're right, mate. I mean, I can't mind. Did they not come back from America because his wife was pregnant at the time? Possibly. I mean, the kids are older now and that as well. So
yeah, couple of kids exactly.
What age? I mean, I also don't know what age the kids are. I'm obviously probably school age.
They're youngsters. Yeah, they're youngsters. Like.
Aye, so. Maybe the 8-12 week camp isn't going to be too bad then, because the kids are settled, you know, they're into their own routine of things now, you know, they'll have their social connections and that as well. So maybe it will be easier this time to go away rather than having the wife, got the 2 kids and one's a young infant, that type of thing, and that you just don't know. But who else in the UK theoretically would Conlan end up going with outside the Booth, the Dark Lord, or the Dark Fraud, as you call him,
Someone said Shane McGuigan, but there's no chance he's going to go to Shane McGuigan.
I was just literally ready to say it, Shane McGuigan there, but that would not happen.
They said he was going to stay with the fella in the gym, but I don't know. That's a bit weird, isn't it? It's like staying in the same house as the ex-wife, isn't it? That.
You got me chap at the door, mate.
So I don't know, to be honest with you. Take Aim says there, by the way, Aziz, Smith, Ziad, Al Mayouf. Those are the fighters that Buddy McGirt's training at the moment. Chris Butler says Conlan reminds me of Khan a bit, looks really good, then gets knocked out spectacularly. MB says, I think Conlan versus Dogbay would be a good fight. Dogbay brings a lot of pressure, man. He can crack too. That'd be a tough fight. Baluta gave...
But washed these days as well, though, Dogbay, you know.
I don't know. He had a decent fight with Joet Gonzalez. Didn't he beat Gonzalez? Joet Gonzalez. And then Joet got the fight on Saturday night.
Trying to remember. Give me a second
huge,
here.
you know.
I've got Dogby's up. That's right. He got beat off Ramirez. That's what it was for the vacant title, and he beat Joet on a split. You know, it was one of the 96, 94s across the board, but you know, 2 the other way. Yeah, that was an eliminator for WBC, and they ended up fighting for the vacant WBO. So does it really make sense, really?
Des there, Andy, saying, could a conversation or ultimatum have been given by Top Rank? We'll back you, but you need to get back out here with an American trainer in an American gym. Mick, don't hold all the cards now. Possibly.
Why would Bob want to call him out to America though, mate? I mean, he's obviously he's got the draw power, as you say, mate, in Ireland. I mean, okay, it's maybe September now, but you say you've always got that, you know, the Falls Park shows that they could you know, you probably fill it in, you know, in summertime, so to speak, or the kind of autumn time. You mentioned the kind of figures there, what you kind of expect them roughly to kind of do if you did it at the Odyssey. I mean, I forget. Is there any other arenas that you've got in that neck of the woods that's kind of like 4,000 or 5,000?
No. Once you're getting up to that type of numbers, you're going in the Odyssey. Yeah, right. I mean, they used to put people. They used to have the Titanic as a venue, not just the Frampton one. They had like a sort of Titanic exhibition center thing that the MTK used to go to. But back then, the scene was more buzzing. You know, you would have had the likes of Paddy Barnes and those guys on the way up, even Stephen Ward and people like that.
We're talking about this, weren't we, just before the start of the show, and that, I mean, you know, it's like you don't see the same faces anymore speaking about the sport or, you know, conversing about it, that type of thing. You're like, well, it's because we've not only got like as I mentioned, we had Ricky Burns up here fighting probably every 4-6 months. You had Frampton, and you had Paddy Barnes, as you mentioned, and you had like the other Irish guys come up behind there. You had obviously loads of guys were following Hay, for example, for the heavyweight fights. You know, big stars at that point, mate. You know, and big fights, and it kind of got everybody together, chatting about it, talking about it, traveling to it. Well, we're not really kind of got that anymore, have we? We're not really, you know, we're mentioning Fury, for example. It would have been great if one of those Fury Wilder fights had happened in the UK, because that would have got everybody buzzing, especially maybe either the second or the third fight, especially how good after, you know, what had happened off the first fight. What else? You know what I'm saying? Big events, you know, meaningful fights, you know, no like AG against, like, say, you know, Jermaine Franklin, for example, mate. You know what I'm saying? No, that kind of like some massive events that Eddie likes to talk about. Just that buzz. He's just not got it in the UK, and you know, just now in that we've not got a fighter in Scotland to get behind just now. As such, you know, kind of like, you know, to create the big events. That you guys are kind of similar the same, are they? A wee bit.
Yeah, there's no buzz. Much like the chat tonight. In fact, only the 2,756 in the chat. They're enjoying themselves. They will give them a shout out shortly for episode 540. Before we do that, Dominic Henry has jumped on valiantly. We threw the stream out, and he has responded. We're talking a bit of Conlan there. Actually, we sort of segued off, Dominic, into the Conlan Lopez talk. You were there in the arena that night when Mick got iced. What was Joet Gonzalez able to do last night to last the 12 rounds and push it so close that Mark Kriegel on ESPN thought he'd won the fight that Mick wasn't able to do back in May?
I was just finished watching the fight about 20 minutes ago, actually, and I actually watched the interviews. You know, in the ring after the fight, Kriegel interviewing Gonzalez, and you know, Gonzalez was like, really, he was all saying, "I'm really disappointed with my performance," and Kriegel was like, "Well, I don't know what I'm watching, but I thought you almost could have won that fight." But I thought watching it, as game as Gonzalez was, and he was very game. I thought 116, 112, even 117, 111, I wouldn't have complained about. In fact, it reminded me of what a sort of fight a few months ago, the Valdez, not even a few months ago, the Valdez Navarrete fight, and I remember a lot of people at the time were sort of giving off about how wide the cards were not. And when I watched the fight, I sort of actually agreed with what Andy said the night after that fight on the pod, that actually the cards, you know, weren't that egregious, and I agreed with that, and I thought the same with this fight last night. In terms of what your actual question, you know, what was, I was just thinking about this actually when I was watching the fight there over the last hour or so. I was just thinking, you know, it sort of brought into stark relief just the sort of difference in toughness. I mean, that guy Joet Gonzalez, he probably doesn't have the you know, the a lot of the natural maybe gifts that Mick Conlan has, but you know, as soon as Lopez landed with any regularity against Mick, you know, the writing, we were there, like the writing was on the wall. As soon as he was really landing with any purchase, you know, it was just a matter of time. Whereas last night, even though I thought he was winning the fight, and I didn't think it was a particularly close fight last night. You know, you could see that, you know, that guy was holding the shots, you know, way better than Mick was able to. So it just sort of shows you what really threw into stark relief for me. It was just that toughness, that sort of toughness at that world title level. And, you know, I sort of said before, different places on the chat, that I don't think Mick should carry on. And what we was actually talking about there just before I came on about Mick going over to America, you know, like, because I actually wanted to ask you about that myself, because I saw there was reports here that he was going out about a month ago. There was reports that he was just about to fly out to America to trial out with different trainers. I assume he's doing that at the minute.
Well, that's what we were talking about. The last I heard was he was going out to sort of train with Buddy McGirt amongst other people, and then we didn't know whether he was going to stay with Booth's gym, whether he was going to carry on, what weight it was going to be, how much sort of purchase there's left in his career, and whether the move to America was a good idea considering he tried it before and it didn't come off. Des suggested in the chat that maybe Top Rank has thrown an ultimatum his way. We don't know if that's the case or not.
Well, sure, he split with Top Rank
officially.
Yeah, that was, you see, that's why, you know, what in terms of now even if he hadn't split with Top Rank, in terms of the actual substance of Dez's suggestion that could Top Rank have put him an ultimatum, I don't see that. I can't see that being likely, because, you know, the likes of Taylor trains with over here in the UK. I don't think Top Rank are that sort of. I don't think they're that type of outfit where they would, you know, if there's management involved, you know, they're not really. It doesn't strike me as being, you know, the Top Rank way, the way they do things. I don't think they're that intrusive in terms of fighters' preparations, but there was the local newspaper here, Steve. You know, the listeners probably never heard of the Irish News, and they carry a boxing supplement every Tuesday. You know, the fella, you know, Andy Waters would compile it. And, you know, about a month ago, there was a report that said that Mick had split with Top Rank. Not just that he had split with Top Rank, but he had split with Booth as well. Now he did sort of qualify the thing about Booth by saying he was still leaving the door open to the possibility, which I find quite bizarre, that he would still train in Booth's gym just with one of Booth's, you know, assistants. And I thought that was, you know, that suggest. Now he said he was leaving that on the table, and that struck me as completely bizarre. You know, like, you know, you've split with Booth, but you're going to be training with, like,
that's what we were saying. It's like living with the ex-wife, isn't it?
It's like it's a sort of bizarre sort of situation, but you know, it's interesting. You know, like in the immediate aftermath of the Lopez fight, he was adamant in the first interviews he gave, like a week or so after. He was saying, no, people are jumping on Adam Booth and they're out of order. He was sort of very defensive about Booth. Now, whether he genuinely believed that or whether he was just saying that, you know, not to come across, you, some fighters know that, you know, some fighters know that they're very alert to this criticism that a lot of fighters make excuses that jump the trader under the bus as soon as they experience a few defeats, and he may have wanted to sort of put people off the scent about that. But you know, I was actually surprised. You know, my thought was, when I was reading the reports about him going over to the States, I was still very skeptical about him actually, whether he would get into the States, you know, because he's obviously got the links with the, you know, he's one of the fighters, I would say, that's been most closely aligned, or and sort of in boxing fans, in our sort of idea of fighters that are linked with MTK. Him and Sonny Edwards would be the sort of fighters that are most closely, you know, they've had a reputation for being vocal in their defense of the whole MTK thing.
Gary Matthews springs to mind as well.
Yeah, there's a few of them, and so I thought then, in that context, I was sort of thinking, You know, will he actually even get into the States now? I assume he has got in, but you know, I think he's gonna stay at featherweight. That's the talk I heard, that the Scots then he talk of going up to 130, but I find it hard to see how he's gonna have. I don't think anyone's going to give him a shot. You know, who's going to give him a really shot? You know, they're talking now about a unification between. One possibility is this. You know, if they're last night, Alberto Lopez was saying to Kriegel that you know, he wanted the unification with Rabizi Ramirez, and you can see, like, say for example, if Ramirez won that, I'm not saying he would win it, but if he did win it, I would say he'd probably be a slight favourite. If he won that, you could sort of see Mick getting a chance at Rabizi, you know, as a sort of a reprise of their amateur rivalry. You know, not that I don't know if they fought that regular as amateurs, but you know, they were obviously rivals. They were lined up to fight each other before Mick got robbed at Rio, but. So there's that possibility if this unification between Ramirez and Bernardo Lopez happens, that Mick could somehow, you know, if say Ramirez won, because Mick's already lost to Lopez, if Ramirez won that unification, he could be lined up for a shot at that. But
who would you fancy at Lopez Ramirez? Because we were talking about that earlier. I would probably favour Lopez.
Yeah, I haven't. The thing is, Steve, I haven't seen. I like to be as honest as I can and say I haven't seen enough of Ramirez in the pros to make a definitive call. But like I would say, with that caveat laid out on the line, I would say I would favour Lopez. I've been very impressed with him, principally because, well, a lot of big punchers, as soon as they're pushed, if you get a big punchers, you often find that as soon as they're pushed back and forced to fight on the back foot, they can't do it. But this guy, I think he's a bit more to him. Like, in the Warrington fight, for large spells of the Warrington fight, he was fighting sort of, you know, not coming forward, but sort of having to step back from centre ring quite a lot and rolling and spinning, and he's very comfortable up close. And it's the power. Like, I think, you know, last night wouldn't make me believe the fact just that he went 12 rounds. That doesn't make me doubt his power. I still think, I mean, you could hear those shots landing last night. It's just that guy Gonzalez, as I said, he was very, very game, probably too game for his own good, really. And I would sort of tentatively say that Lopez, I would sort of maybe tentatively back him to get a stoppage there. But as I say, you know, with a caveat, I haven't seen much of Ramirez. I think he has settled down, Ramirez, since that early setback he had, but he is very tricky the way he throw, you know, those uppercuts that he leaps in with. You know, textbook boxing would say, you know, that is just a no-no to jump in with the uppercut from that far out.
Gets away with it, doesn't he?
He gets away with it, and it's especially, he does throw some uppercuts where he's in what you would say is more conventional proper position, whereas he's got his feet right underneath him and he's sort of right on the chest, and the uppercut comes right up vertical, like you've no chance of seeing it. So he does throw some of them right some of the time, but most of them it's that leaping thing he throws up. But there is more to him. Like, he throws nice counter left hooks. You know, just going back, lead counter left hooks. Nice, sweet. You know, he's not just he's not. I wouldn't describe him as crude. Definitely not. And he does hold. I think he's a tough kid as well. Like, he holds a good shot. And but on Mick, I you know, I'm always very. Like the issue of calling a fighter a quitter, I'm always very reluctant to say that a fighter should quit the sport, you know, like shouldn't be fighting in the pros. But I don't think I can't see him, if you ask me, I can't really see him doing anything significant now. But that's just my opinion.
It's a good opinion, Dominic. Feel free to stick around with us as long as you want. Please, God, stick around with us. Andy's back. Thank the Lord for Andy's return, just in time for the Top Rank undercard before we move on from this ESPN extravaganza. What did I see? Indeed, we mentioned Ruben Villa earlier. I saw that one against Brandon Valdez. Delante Tiger Johnson was in action, much more control, jabbing, hunting the body. finally shedding the skin of his amateur days. He's still a little bit hittable at times, but he can definitely mature out to that. He had a good opponent in this guy, Ricardo Quiroz. A decent prospect. I'm all in on Abdullah Mason, though, when it comes to that little top-ranked cadre. Mason wasn't on this particular card. John Rincon wasn't too impressed with him. Emiliano Vargas, mentioned him earlier, the son of one of my favourite fighters, Fernando Vargas, who sold out this very arena some 20-odd years ago. They said against Raymond Javal. He beat a Spaniard. Did Emiliano Vargas, Alejandro Guardado. Last night, we had a big all-Mexican war between Julio Luna, who got the win over Omar Aguilar, and Jermaine Ortiz got cut and went in pretty heavy against Antonio Moran, who Devin Haney had knocked out about 5-6 years ago. And Xander Zayas, who's being he's being touted as a decent prospect for top rank, turned pro very young with them, went in against Roberto Valenzuela Jr. And I don't know if you saw this one or not, but Valenzuela ended up with quite the injury.
Yeah.
The doctor I tell you what, he's the Steve Smoger of doctoring. He kept on pushing him back out again. The referee was desperate, trying to nudge him to stop the fight. Valenzuela was game as hell. He could punch, but look at the picture on the screen there, man. He was getting the shit beaten out of him from a blood perspective anyway.
Yeah, I mean, Zayas, as you say, mate, it's been highly touted, but I thought it was phenomenal. To be fair, you know, that jab which caused that state of that nose, that is horrendous. But that's what caused it. That jab was just piston, you know, brilliant. You know,
fantastic job, wasn't it?
Yeah, he got dropped on the left hook as well, I think, and then he got dropped again late in the first round by a right hand. So yeah, I thought, what is Zayas? About 20, I think, 21. Still hasn't really fully, you know, well, you can see it just now that he's developing, you know, his man strength as such now, but he's going to be frightening to see where he's going to end up in terms of weight. And the same goes for Vargas and that as well, you know, the 19-year-old kid and that. He's at 135 just now, Vargas, right? And you can just tell by looking at him, he's going to be a middleweight by 23, 24, without doubt, man. You know, he's got, you know, one thing I really liked about Zayas and Vargas actually was the patience that they showed, both of them, you know, quick moves, that everything, left hooks to the body. Zayas as well, you know, physically you can see him developing into a man, as I mentioned, and obviously the state of that cut was just, it was just on another level, to be fair, mate. It was absolutely brutal. You mentioned the ref, you know, he's bringing it in a few times. You just see by that point, though, he's getting desperate for the fight, you know, desperate towards you know, trying to kind of scrap it out a wee bit. But as I says, you know, Zayas' jab, you know, great again, opened up the cut, and the refs just kind of like had enough to stop the fight. So not much else you can say about it. The guy was game enough, mate. But I'm not too sure if, again, I'm not wanting to say he was losing a lot of blood, obviously, in that. So I don't know what, you know, what the risk is to him there, but in terms of, you know, the cut and where the blood's coming from, it's no impairing his vision as such. You know what I'm saying? I know obviously the cut can get worse. You know, it could split his nose open, that type of thing. But I just think maybe it could have been on a wee bit in that as well. And you can see the fighter was wanting to go, like, you know, he was wanting to let it go in as well. You know, but again, I just think it's obviously just because of the amount of blood he was losing at the time. I mean, he came out after he was at what round was it again? Was it the fifth?
Fifth, yeah.
And then as soon as that first jab landed, mate, the blood's pissed out it straight away. You know?
I think that was the problem, Andy, wasn't it? Well, like you said, it wasn't impairing his vision, but the doctor was like pushing it together to wipe it, and as soon as he took his hands away, like a flap opened, and the blood was just running out like a tap. And I'm thinking, in that case, what's the point? I mean, I know he's game, but he's clearly not going to win this fight.
But it's always what's on the line as well with these sort of fights. You know, he's in against the touted prospect, but to me, you know, whenever it's not a world title on the line or a significant title, then I'm more okay with the fight being stopped. It's interesting sometimes to compare it. You know, we all remember the Beterbiev fight against Marcus Brown, and that was a horrific cut. And that was actually, and because it was in the middle of his forehead, it was probably impairing his vision during the rounds because it was sort of curdling into the eyes, you know, going down the nose and streaming in.
Remember the Jack one right in the middle of his forehead, remember?
That was Marcus Brown too, wasn't it?
Yeah, he was the headbutt, didn't he?
And look, remember Edwin Valerio?
Yeah.
In his last fight, Steve in his last fight against DeMarco, when he's got the big elbow.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
It's interesting because that was Texas last night. You usually think with Texas, you know, they're a bit more, you know, they're not as, and you know, the Beterbiev fight was in Canada. So it's interesting, just, but again, the Beterbiev fight, you know, it's the titles are on the line, whereas this last night, it's a touted prospect. So I wouldn't. It's not something that I would get too pepped up about because it's not much on the line. But anyway, on Zayas, I mean, I know Matty's been very high on him. Anytime Matty speaks about him, Matty's very, very complimentary about him. And is this a lightweight, Steve? That fight?
The Zayas against no, I think they're way up at hang on, let me check. I think they're like welterweight, super welterweight.
I thought he was, for some reason, I thought he was. I mean, you know what? I'm getting him mixed up with that other. I'm getting him mixed up with flipping Felix Verdeo, flipping the boy, the kid that's waiting seconds out. That's he was lightweight, but so he's something like light middle. You think?
Yeah, he's light middle. Yeah.
Yeah, but the job was, the first thing I noticed, I watched, that was the only other fight I saw on the card. The job was that's the first thing I saw. The job was, and he didn't get flustered. The guy was taking big cuts at him. He wasn't panicking at all. So he's one to watch out for. The other wee bits and pieces just to tidy up on that card, Steve. The first thing I noticed on the main event was flipping Lawrence Cole again refereeing. Just when you think you've seen the last one, but these states, they just roll this guy out.
Do you think he's getting too fat to referee?
It's you know what? It's not even that, but there was just a few. Even there was a few times he sort of interrupted the action, and even Poncher and Jamel Herring were sort of saying, "What was that for?" Just these inexplicable interruptions, and you're just like, what the hell are you playing at? It's just. I don't know, but and the other thing on Poncher, just the thing that annoyed me. There's sometimes Alberto Lopez, he sort of rides a lot of the punches. He rides them very well. He takes maybe about a third of the impact of the shots, so it's a scope shot. But the way she describes it, it's like, oh, he's been clocked by a big heavy right hand, and it's just, you can see watching the fight, on the screen, that it's not as dramatic, it's not as heavy a shot as she's making it out to be. But that's Poncher. But yes, Andy was saying there about that the Sky Nicholson's opponent's trainer then in that the DAZN card.
Yeah, what did you say? Were you watching it live or did
no? I haven't seen it. The only thing I've heard. Go on the.
No, well, obviously the clip that I seen, it was like a 30-second clip, and that is enough for me to see. Actually, a wee reminder of the slender cord of life here, but the guy's basically
drops off the stool, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's sitting there ringside, and he's basically seeing him raise his right hand, calling the wife, basically saying like, come forward into the action, basically. And then literally like 5-10 seconds later, the kind of camera it's following the boxers really, and it kind of like catches him in the corner, literally just toppling off the stool. And obviously there's a wee slight delay. I think maybe the guy's maybe slipped off the stool, because it's all happened to us, we've all fell off a stool or off a chair and that, but then he didn't get up, and then the body started kind of rising at ringside, finding out what's going on, and then massive heart attack. What fucking... You never know how you're going to go, I suppose, but fucking Jesus Christ, man, what a way to go.
And the poor fighter as well, Dominic.
It's her husband too.
Yeah, exactly.
It did say that the one thing it did pick up on, it said his age. He was in his early 50s, the guy.
58 he was.
And so it's like, it's it actually happened. Was it in the last round, in the 10th round?
Yeah, with about 20-30 seconds to go, something like that.
I was just thinking there, has anything similar, can either of you remember anything similar like happening? I can't myself.
Remember what do you call him, having a heart attack at ringside and having to get carried out the ring because of the what's his name? Lou Duva. It's the closest one I can remember. He had a heart attack at ringside. Was it the Chaos, the Glotabo fight?
Yeah, possibly? It was. Yeah. Well, he did get iced as well, didn't he? So kind of brings these things on. But like you said about this fella, the shocking thing was like he's 1 minute he's there calling her in, the next minute he's gone. Literally, just he's on the ground and dead, man. Like you said, just how quick these things happen. Just makes you wonder. Well, it makes you wonder for a few days, and then we all go back to living the way we always live. But
complaining and moaning and fucking this and fucking that, and Jesus Christ, man, I think about her this morning, man. Well, literally, I think about her at that moment. I mean, it's just again, this is the wrong thing to say, but this is well, it probably happened in the last round. I mean, can you imagine that happening like maybe like halfway through the fight as she goes to the corner and the old man's there getting CPR?
Exactly.
She's got a decision to make, man. You could pull out the fight possibly, and that. It takes.
I think if it was earlier and it was like they were conscious of the fact it was going on, they would have had to make a decision and stop things, wouldn't they? I think the fact it happened when it did, and there was that initial shock, carried it through the 30 seconds for the fight to come to its conclusion. Had it happened earlier in the fight, it definitely. Well, I mean, the fight couldn't have gone on. There's no way she would have been able to have fought. It would have had to have been stopped.
I mean, she wouldn't. I don't think she would have been aware until the round ended.
No, she wasn't. That's what I mean. The fact it happened so late, yeah.
I mean, the ref would physically need to have stopped that fight, and then because obviously, I mean, it's outside the ring. That could be any stance. Again, we're on the corner, but how many times have you? Well, how many times have we heard about an incident at an event? Someone's collapsed, had a heart attack, in the medical emergency, that type of thing, and that it happens. But just I've never seen it happen like that. That's.
What you see a lot of the time, one thing I am used to seeing, if you ever watching the tennis, and it's like in these very humid venues, like sometime in Paris or in the US and New York, with its very humid, hot conditions, and sometimes a spectator up in the crowd will just pass out, and I've seen like that happen in a spectator before, and then everything stops until the sort the person out, get them treated. But
happened to the football as well a few times, hasn't it? Wasn't it Newcastle? I remember last season or something. Again, in the crowd, like you said, it wasn't a participant. Apart from your man Ericsson, of course.
That's probably a closest sort of approximation, but to get an actual participant, happening, like I haven't seen. I don't think actually I think I'll actually, I don't think I'll try to watch it because it's not something you want to see. But
it's like we're rewatching like Billy Collins, Luis Resto, especially when you're like waiting for something. It's like almost macabre, isn't it? Like
you feel you're intruding on something. You feel like it's almost voyeuristic, but.
Moamba as well, Take Aim's mentioned. Absolutely, I forgot about
it. I tell you, the worst one I seen that was Mark Vivian Foe, right? Remember him from Man City?
Yeah.
And I'll never forget him getting stretchered off that pitch, right? His lifeless body, his arms are hanging over the side, and his face, his head's tilted, literally like on the stretcher, literally looking toward the camera, and you could just, it was just the worst thing I'd seen at that point, mate. I did want to get carried off the pitch on live television. His fucking face tilted like that, basically lifeless, just with the camera zoomed right in on him. It was one of the worst things you'd see.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that was on the undercard of Angel Fierro. I can't remember. It was some scrap, actually, the main event, but it's been removed from BoxRec, the entire card, so I think we'll maybe just move on from that one. On to DAZN the following evening. William Zepeda, Andy, I'm assuming you tuned in for this one against Mercito Gesta. If you don't have good power, Zepeda is going to be an absolute nightmare to deal with. Much has been made of his output, the amount of shots that he's throwing, 300-400 shots. I was checking the back for spots. One of our listeners as well was on to me as well. And between us, we were sort of laughing this morning. And isn't it sad that that's the first thing you do, checking for the spots, seeing if he's VAR'd or enrolled? And Gesta, decent boxer, showed lots of toughness. It was a beatdown, really. It was just his balls that kept him in it.
Yeah, I guess that's had his day, mate. I mean, he must be mid-30s now, and he's not what he was, to be fair. Let's be honest. He's got the heart. He's got decent skills and that. And there was a time I remember when he was getting touted for big things because obviously he's Filipino. He had Manny Pacquiao blazing through the scene at that point and that as well. But he's really lacking power because if you look at his record, mate, he went for like flyweight to like super feather or lightweight in the space of 3 or 4 years for his pro career starting. So it hasn't really kind of got like the KO wins and that. It hasn't really kind of got over the line in the big fights. As you say, mate, he got beat down. A lot of kind of like wasted punches by Zepeda. I thought in that six rounds before the fights got stopped. Obviously there was nothing coming back from Gesta, so I can see why Jack stepped in. But as you say, mate, that was a complete beatdown. He just hassled him all over the ring, chased him all over the ring. Left hooks, uppercuts, all types of shots from all types of angles. Gesta took as much as what he could be, but he had nothing in terms of really backing him up. As you say, it's going to take somebody who's got very, very cute on the boxing IQ side. Was he 135?
Like a Shakura, someone like that who's going to move
Yeah.
around him. Or someone, Andy, maybe who can make him think coming in, like a Ryan Garcia or a Tank Davis or something, which makes it even more interesting. The fact he called out Devin Haney, who, despite his jab and his ability, well, I suppose that's his tool for stopping you from coming in. He grabs hold of you like an octopus. But if you can move about him, technical elite mover, I think you give him trouble. If you can hit him hard and often when he comes in, make him think, you'll give him trouble. But if you haven't got the power to keep him off him with this level, you're going to struggle.
He's got the engine, mate, and that's the thing. And, you know, we've still got to see that chin being checked, to be fair. Well, I've still to see it. I don't know if he's been checked early in his career that I've not seen too much.
He fought that Roger Gutierrez, didn't he? And we know that he can definitely bang for all his limitations.
Yep, definitely. So, again, it's just obviously kind of getting the right fights at this point, mate. I mean, he's knocking on the door. Clearly, he's a danger. Clearly, he needs to be a man. He needs to be respected. He's going to give a hard night's work for anybody. A guy like Isaac Cruz, but not so much a dream fight, but it would be a good trade fight for the fans. Maybe Barinchik, possibly another possible opponent. Keyshawn Davis is probably nowhere near him at this point in that as well. Maybe the Russian Abdulayev, possibly, mate. He's showing a wee bit of decent form in the last few there. And obviously, if Maxie Hughes doesn't get his chance against Kambosos in a rematch, it's maybe an opportunity as such as well to get himself back into the ranks.
I was going to suggest that, actually. I know Kambosos I think he signed with Top Rank, but assuming, we don't know if, we'll talk about it in a minute, Haney, Prograis, I don't know whether he's moving up or not, but if he drops the belts, we presume that he's going to. Zepeda, maybe lobby to fight Kambosos for the vacant IBF, something like that. Stevenson's number one in the WBO, and then after him we've got Cruz, Lomachenko. So Haney might drop the WBO. Stevenson also is, so Haney's dropped the WBC officially, hasn't he? Now Stevenson was supposed to fight Frank Martin. That was the whole fuss. He's now fighting Edwin de los Santos on November the 16th. So it's looking more than likely that Haney's going to disappear off and drop the belts. And then, like you said, Zepeda's got to be in line to pick up one of these vacant shots, Andy. Surely he's done his apprenticeship now.
Yeah, I think it'll probably be the BA or the BC, I think, mate, to be fair. But it's probably all roads will need to lead through the Showtime market, which will be Frank Martin and Isaac Cruz, possibly. I don't know, in terms of business, I mean, we hate to talk about it, but it's probably going to be an issue. And then you could end up maybe seeing Zepeda getting put down on a different route. I mean, who is it? Golden Boy is Oscar? Is Oscar Zepeda's promoter?
Yeah, Golden Boy. Yeah.
I mean, you kind of hope he's not going to get Munguia vibes off him. To be fair, he's going to be left to kind of feast on the kind of sea-level fighters or type of thing, and doesn't really kind of get into the biggest fights. And then if the time does come, he's been kind of like washed out as such. He's been kind of, what I'm saying, a bit like Zepeda.
Yeah,
he's kind of like nonsense fights. Nothing really of value. But again, Stevenson top. I don't know, mate. I mean, I like to look at that Floyd Schofield, but I think he's Showtime, isn't he?
No, he's DAZN as well, isn't he? Floyd Schofield. Yeah, I think he's one of Eddie's, or is he? Right. I think he's Oscar, isn't he?
Is he Oscar? Right.
Yeah, I think he's one of Oscar's fighters.
But interesting one then as well. And obviously you got Reece Mould there in the top 15 and that as well. But yeah, I think you're right. He said he's a pressure, but he must have like how many fights has he had? That's 29 fights he's had now.
He's about 30 odd fights, yeah.
Yep. Again, you just want to see him if he's got that same energy against the top guys, but the belts look like you're going to get fragmented very soon, so there's going to be like a cherry pick fest, I would imagine. Lomachenko's going to be floating about there. I think he will be fancying a wee dib at a couple of title fights. So,
I think, Andy, it just occurred to me when you said that. I think Zepeda is going to be one of those guys who's going to fight with the exact same work rate, energy, power, non-stop while he's undefeated. And then I'm not saying he'll be cracked, but as soon as somebody beats him and everybody else sees how to do that, then he'll become a lot easier to manage and easier to deal with. And while he's got that confidence, he strikes me as a guy of the unbeaten fighter. He'll just walk through walls until somebody beats him eventually, I think.
Interesting one. It's interesting. You just don't know if the confidence, you say, maybe just purely on confidence as such, but it's just the work rate, mate, as well. And he does put his combinations together pretty well on that as well. He has a handful. He's a dangerous man. As you say, if you haven't got the skills, the IQ, the defensive capabilities to handle him, and certainly, I mean, you know yourself now, we've done a bit of sparring. Those guys are the worst types to guys to fucking fight unless you know how to handle them because of solid strike. I mean, he's massive for the weight. I was having a quick look at his box weight. Allegedly, he's 5'9". At 135, mate, he's fucking solid for the weight. If you look at him as well, massive for the weight. So
look at the size of his back. I'm just watching highlights
Yeah.
of it here, and I'm just watching like an 8-minute highlight packet. But the size of his back, he's huge for that for lightweight.
That's what MB's saying. He's a big lightweight. Is he going to make 135 for much longer? I don't know, Dominic. We mentioned a few of the comings and goings there. Shakur Stevenson, De Los Santos. I don't hate that fight in November 16th. Would have rather seen Frank Martin, but as a substitution fight, that's okay. And then Zepeda called out Haney, but we think, well, he's dropping the belts left, right, and centre, so he's going to move up, isn't he? Supposedly December the 9th to fight Regis Prograis. That hasn't been officially signed by Haney's side of the team yet. So what's going on, sort of like with this 135 picture?
WBC have made him champion in recess, so
is that
that's
what
at least one belt vacant so far.
Right.
Yeah, it seems like there's Prograis has signed his side of it, and Haney hasn't signed his own.
That's what they're saying. You never really know, but that's what Prograis saying.
Yeah. It's the only thing I would say about that fight, someone was saying it on the chat, and others chatted a couple of weeks ago there, Steve, was that that Haney versus Prograis is going to be a very, very hard sell. That you know, for us, obviously, it's a fight. You know, we're interested in it.
I agree with you there.
But I mean, and there's talk. The last talk I heard was that they were going to put it somewhere in California, like San Francisco or something, or somewhere in California state. Maybe it wasn't San Francisco, maybe somewhere else, but definitely California state. But it's definitely a fight I'd be interested in. I think Prograis needs the challenge. He needs something. Really needs something to get his.
He was awful in his last fight as well.
Yeah, he just did.
Would Haney bring that out of him though, Dominic? Because you look at Zorrillo, you look at Haney, negative, tall, beyond the jab, very Zorrillo-like. Prograis can be very negative and defensive for all of, it can be exciting sometimes. It can be negative too. I think this would be a real chess match, standoff, jab, move forward, kind of technical fight.
Yeah, no, I think it would definitely be a very technical fight. It's interesting. I think as well with Haney, I think Prograis has been struggling potentially to get the 10 stone for quite a while, whereas Haney's probably looking at a bit of relief to finally get up the 10 stone himself. That 5 pounds will probably make him feel a bit more comfortable. Yeah, it's interesting one. I would probably favor Haney, to be honest with you.
I would. Yeah.
As well as that, what people forget about Prograis, anytime Prograis comes up in conversation, people seem to always forget how old he is now. I mean, he's like 33 or 34. And that's sort of, he's one of those fast twitch guys. And that sort of, that's you notice when you're on the decline, that sort of style sort of ages less well than other styles. The one thing I would say about this scene, Steve, at 135, they're talking about Tank, a rematch between Tank and the Pitbull Cruz. I have to say, I have no appetite to see that at all. To me, that's not good for me. Like, that's
no, I don't want to see it either. But they've been lining that up for a while now, haven't they?
Yeah, they've been lining it up for a while, but it's. I just, to me, there's no excuse for it. He's already he won basically every round of the fight, despite having he had a hand. They're saying he didn't knock him out because there was something wrong with his hand in the first fight.
Right. Yeah,
and I remember watching the first fight. It was entertaining, but I can't see. Would he knock him out? Well, maybe he would. I don't really care because he's going to win either way. The only question is whether he wins by knockout or whether it's another lopsided decision. But to me, if you're the point I'm trying to make is if you're billing Tank as they're trying to bill him as this next big pay-per-view attraction, this big box office attraction, I have no time for pointless rematches. This is just a pointless rematch. If this was Eddie putting this on, we'd be going nuts and saying this is another of Eddie's. And this is worse because there wasn't even a clause. It wasn't even like as if like it's a fighter who an essay that has a rematch clause and he lost the fight and he's activated. This is the fight and then they're still looking to have the rematch. To me, it's
cynical.
Yeah, I mean, my view is that they don't want they want to have options not to not to have to fight Shakur Stevenson. I don't think they want that. At least they don't want it yet. But I Garcia. I know, when Rob's been on this year, Rob's been saying, we've had the big fights this year. We've had, for example, King Ray against Tank, but I was very underwhelmed by that fight, I have to say. I don't think I'm the only one. I think there's a few others in the chat were sort of, for all the hype that it got, that to me, the Ryan Garcia really, I thought he let himself down. Again, not to call someone a quitter, but I thought, that was disappointing, but
Matt Butter says Haney Prograis is a fantastic fight. It is a fantastic fight on paper, absolutely. Yeah, it's a really good one. I just think the reality of it will be quite technical and maybe tough to watch. But if they're going to make it, 100%, I would definitely want to see that. No need for the Cruz rematch for Tank, says Michael Thompson. Needs to get at it with champions. From now on, talking of getting at it, let's quickly slide through the undercard of Zepeda before we move on. Victor Morales, excellent scrap with Edwin Palomares. The scores didn't really do justice to Palomares' efforts there. And Eric Priest looks decent. They put him in against Simon Madsen in a bit of a step-up affair, and I thought he looked pretty good. Andy, you were mentioning to me that you had seen the Showbox card, as did I. A bit of an upset in the main event. Rafael Pedrosa was expected to come over and beat Ramon Cardenas, but Cardenas absolutely iced him. And then quick one on the undercard there, the heavy-handed Argentine Merso Cuello defeated Rudy Garcia. They're well-matched little cards, these, I think, the Showbox ones.
Yeah, as I say, it's the first one I've watched in a wee while, to be fair, mate. And I think I might have picked the right one because I was really impressed with that Cardenas guy, actually. Pedrosa started very, very aggressive, and then Cardenas has just started dropping good, solid shots, good jab, quick hands. Really impressed with his hand speed, actually. It just kind of fell apart for Pedrosa in round two. He's got caught with a left hook early, flush in the face, man. What a shot that was. Turned it over beautifully. Dropped him early in the round, and then Cardenas just went kind of looking for him, really just kind of landed a solid right hand. And he's kind of caught him again with another left hook, dropping Pedrosa heavy. But I would say that he's certainly one to keep an eye on anyway, Cardenas, actually. So it's the first time I've seen him that I can recall anyway. So certainly one to kind of keep an eye on. And you say, mate, Cuello against Garcia, I thought it was a decent competitive scrap, actually, by two guys. But both guys were kind of giving as good as what they got. I thought Cuello was, maybe slightly better, slightly stronger puncher, I thought, at least. Both had good jabs. And obviously had the fifth round knockdown in favour of Cuello and that as well. It looked soft, actually, to be fair. But again, Cuello investing a lot of shots with left hooks to the body and that as well. So decent fight all round. Those two, anyway, those were the two main fights that I've seen anyway on the card. And I thought both were really well. One was really good, and one was pretty shocking. Well, upset, I suppose, because I think a few folk would have picked the other guy to win by decision, but see him getting iced in the manner what he did, actually, it was a nice wee surprise.
Always good to see good icing on these Showbox cards. The boys in the chat are asking after Matty. Poor Matty is not very well tonight, unfortunately, so we wish him well. Hopefully he'll be well enough to watch the Pro Box card on Wednesday evening. We'll give it a cursory mention for him because he loves these, doesn't he? Lester Martinez against Lionel Thompson. Batajan Zhukambayev. He's going in against Hugo Roldan. And Clay Waterman, an Australian who featured on one of the previous Showbox cards, actually. He's going in against Kareem Hackett. They're both 11-0, so really nice, well-matched cards there. Let's have a look through the chat and give a shout out now. It's picked up a little bit. 5,780 in the chat at the moment. Des, wish Matty well, not the same without him. Absolutely 100%. As we always say, people slag each and every one of us off at some point. But if everyone got their way, there'd be no one here. It'd be dead air on a Sunday evening, which you might be preferable to listen to. Jim McDonald's here anyway. He's enjoying the show, episode 540. So is Michael Thompson, Mark Stanton, Chris Butler, Johnny's with us as well. Des too, Matt Butters. Shout out to the Patreon nutters. Patreon.com/Boxing Asylum. MB's with us. Good lad. M Lithgow 1983 as well. Just scrolling up, seeing if there's any new names. We had Ames hanging around earlier. Number 1 is in the chat. Just scrolling on up. Albert Ross. Good evening to you, Mr. Albert Ross. Let's see if we can find any more names before we move on to the action for next week. AP has been quite quiet tonight. What's the crack, lads? Dropping in now, says Joe Kennedy. Good to hear from you as well. As always, Joe. And shout out to Danny Young. Oh, say me, Steve. Ryan Ormerod, they are. I'll put you up on the screen as well, Ryan. Extra special. As you are our 5,781st listener. There you are, Ryan. Good to see you in the chat. Right, let's move on to the action for next week then. What have we got first of all? We were talking about this off air, actually, Andy. This Albert Ramirez over in Monaco next Saturday evening. He's going in against Gilbert Castillo Rivera. A bit of a nondescript one, but this is a bit of a strange show. Pro-am, some really good high-quality amateur action on the undercard as well. 31-year-old Southpaw Ramirez, 16-0, 15 knockouts. He can definitely bang. He's a cruiserweight, but he was at light heavyweight, up at cruiserweight now. And he absolutely iced that Brian Suarez in a round. You might remember Suarez going in against Lyndon Arthur a couple of Friday nights ago. So he can definitely crack this Ramirez on a bit of an oddity of a card overall.
Yeah, to be fair, mate, I think this must be classing over the weight fight because he is ranked in the top 5, I think, with some of the bodies at light heavy. So obviously it's a keep busy fight, but it is an interesting card to keep an eye out, especially use it like your maybe your pro-am cards, because as I says, there's a mix of kind of top amateurs in there. I think there's a couple of Cubans. One of the French amateurs is turning. I think he's having one of his earlier pro fights and that as well. That Amir Khan, one of the Russians. I think he's a middleweight possibly. Really strong guy. Don't know how far he'll go, but I'd imagine he'll bludgeon whoever he's facing because it says he is a strong dude. But Ramirez, again, one of those fighters I've kind of spotted coming out of South America, and I think he has got potential to be a world champion, but again, opportunities going to be hard to come by. I don't know what your situation is in terms of promoter, but Southpaw, as I mentioned, definitely a hitter. Good, when you see him kind of like put his shots together, Matt, he is very skilled. 31 now, though, that's the only thing. So again, opportunities, and he will be a very solid B-side. Saying that, he'll probably turn up on. He'll probably get his opportunity, as I say. He'll probably fucking shit the bed or something like that. But I've got hopes. I had hopes about what's your man's name again for Ecuador? Gongora.
Oh yes.
I had hopes for him, but he kind of like washed out in the end, didn't he? So hopefully this guy can maybe make up for it. But again, as I say, he just needs to get a chance now to prove it. And just kind of like on that topic, I see cruiserweights, or he's up at heavyweight now. Yuri Kalenga.
Oh.
He's fighting in the Congo next week, actually. Next week, mate, against Isa Kayembe at the Stade des Martyrs in Kinshasa. So I don't know if that's the same stadium that Ali and Foreman fought in. Just give me a wee second here for a wee bit of history lesson here, see if it is.
Following in the footsteps from the greats, Yuri Kalenga on the return. I saw him fight in Dublin once. He did a dance at the end of his fight with Hassan and Dan. Great night.
No, it's no. It was actually, this is a new stadium actually. It broke ground in the 90s, so not that stadium. So no significance here. No
significance. Just before we move on to Joyce, Zhang, Andy, just a very quick one from you. On Monday, tomorrow, in fact, in Japan. I'm not sure what time this is going to land for us, but maybe we'll get to watch it. Strong card, Junto Nakatani defending his WBO World Super Flyweight title against RG Cortez, and Kenshiro is also in action against the South African Heki Butler. Kenshiro holds the WBA Super World Light Flyweight title and the WBC World Light Flyweight title. He lost to that, was it Makabuki or something? I think it was about 2 years to the day almost, actually. But he avenged that loss. And I think he's looked better than ever since then. I mean, he's not on Inoue levels, obviously, who is in the world at the moment. But when it comes to like an aggressive come-forward fighter and a bit of a star, he's 31 now. And he's really learnt from that loss. And he's absolutely blasting people away. And I think that Butler's going to give him a good fight. But I'm really liking what I'm seeing from Kenshiro, this new version now.
Yeah, and to be fair, actually, this should have been a unification fight with Jonathan Gonzalez for WBO belt, but there's been a problem. I don't know if it was illness or what it was, but that fight was definitely in talks, and it's fell apart. Butler's WBC #1 contender, so they've took the mandatory on instead. So, yeah, Kenshiro definitely looking as good as ever now. Actually, to be fair, I think he'll do Butler actually pretty bad. Butler's had his day, to be fair, mate. I forget what age he is at this point, and he has been a good servant in it, mini weight and that type of thing. But he must be well up in age now, and he has fought some of the decent names around about that at that time, especially at those weights. But he's also been on the road. He's took some beatings in that as well, mate. I think this will be a step too far from it. Obviously, the Elwin Soto one's been one that's kind of like got him back in the mix, really. But at the same time, hasn't really done nothing since then. And I think Kenshiro probably at the peak of his powers just now. And I think he'll probably do him probably just after the midway point of the fight. I think you'll maybe see him maybe will win some body shots possibly, because I think Butler's very, very small for light flyweight, and Taraji's kind of like, I think he's like 5'5", 5'6".
You're small for 108 pounds. There's no hope for you, is there?
Yeah, exactly. So I think it could be that, mate. So we'll wait and see. I think the weigh in the day, actually, time-wise, I think this will be early morning for us. And that, so I'm going to miss it. I'll just need to kind of catch up with it, I suppose. But yeah, I think Kenshiro by mid-ish round stoppage.
That'll be a nice. Yep. Matt Butter says by 6 rounds as well. It is a great Japanese card, Michael Thompson. We'll get it to you as quick as we can, so we can all have a watch, hopefully. Right, let's go from one end of the scale to the others. Joyce and Zhang would be shitting the size of these light flyweights after a decent meal. They're rematching next weekend over in England. I really have no idea, Dominic. This is going to be great punditry. How this fight's going to go, I just don't know. Whether it was a one-off from Zhang, whether Joyce is nearly 40. Has he learned to move his head? Has he learned to keep the high guard now? We've seen him in the amateurs fight that way. Was he just, the kind of guy who was listening to the hype? They started all that thing, didn't they, about, the immovable object, he eats punches, he's like Homer Simpson against Dredrick Tatum. Did he just buy into that and think he could just walk through everybody? A few people have said, Zhang, if it wasn't for the closed eye, I know Frank Warren was saying that it would have been a different fight, but Zhang hurt him in that fight. He closed the eye. He was landing a lot of good shots. I don't know whether repeat or revenge, or I have no idea what's going to happen on Saturday night, to be honest. Can you help me?
I don't know if I can. Do you know what, Steve? I'm very intrigued by it. Like you, I'm very intrigued by this. I'm going to try my best to watch this one live. I'm very, very intrigued. If I'm be up front right with you now, I'll say my prediction is, again, maybe a bit later.
Hang on. Your internet dropped out there, Dominic. I don't know if that was just me or not, but we're on tenterhooks here to your prediction.
Oh, it's come and going. It is. I'll move into. I'll just move into. It's just. I'll sort of move this into another room here. It's the internet. It's just.
You need to get yourself into the old fibrous. Yeah, can you hear you? Oh, I think it's getting worse.
Bear with me.
Oh, go ahead. No, we can hear you now.
I'll just move it into a better connection here. It's internet's a bit iffy, but yeah, it's very interesting. It was a few weeks ago, actually. It was the podcast a week after. It was a week after Spence Crawford. I think it was Sunday, the 5th of August. And Ozzy was on, and he was talking about this fight. And Ozzy was of the opinion that that Joyce would win the rematch. Bear with me a wee second, Steve. I'm just getting this connected here.
Live. He's getting connected live here. Getting plugged in.
Bear with me.
Big prediction coming up. Ozzy's even got a mention. Remember him?
I was sort of very interested in what Ozzy had to say, because Ozzy was sort of pinning his prediction that Joyce would come through this time on this whole issue of the weight, this whole discussion point that Joyce had come in at 18 stone instead of 19 stone for the Parker fight. And this is one of the things I've been meaning to say to you since I had this in my head to say to you, that I thought this was a red herring, because, at that sort of, I was really saying that a stone, like there's the difference between 18 stone and 19 stone. I was really saying that would have, enabled Joyce not to mark up from them. But as you rightly say, that, them shots that were landing so clean that caused the eye, that's why the eye closed, because he was landing plumb right on the eye. And to me, the other thought I had about this was, you know, you're asking the Joyce and the people who were, you know, and I think I was one of them as well. I'm not going to say that it was, you know, I'm not going to deny it. I thought he was, you know, going to be very hard to put for anyone to put a dent in him. You know, you had all these people. Frampton was coming out and saying about, you know, the bone density. You know, he had like this sort of abnormally thick bone density in the skull and all this sort of stuff. But you know, the thought I had was that, you know, a lot of this I thought was based on the Parker fight, when he sort of you know, basically just took anything Parker landed some big heavy digs on him, and he just sort of walked through it. And when I
built up, sorry Dom, just from like the Stavern fight and the Bryant Jennings fight, it's like been a building sort of narrative.
Yeah, it's just sort of got more and more it's gathered momentum. And the thing on the Parker fight, the sort of reflection that I had was that I think Parker is very overrated by a lot of people. I don't think, you know, I think maybe too much was read into Joyce beating Parker. I really think Parker is he won a world title against Andy Ruiz years ago, but I mean you could make an argument that Hughie Fury maybe beat him. I mean, and what does that say? I mean, you know, I really think he maybe too much was read into Joyce beating Parker. And I'd be really interested to see what happens, you know, because I think there's a lot riding on it. Like, I think he's one of these fighters. I think there was a discussion came up that if he did lose the rematch, what would they do with him? Or would they, you know, but I think you could probably see him being repackaged for, you know, the likes of Fabio Wardley and these sort of guys coming through, fighting at sort of Wembley Arena and that level of fight. But, you know, as you were asking the question there, has he learned how to slip a sort of southpaw jab or any jab, whether it's southpaw or not? The thing that I thought that was so alarming, how he looked like he had never seen a southpaw in his life in that first fight. You know, it was really quite sort of quite shocking how you know how clueless he looked in the face of it. So I find it very, very difficult to see anything different. Maybe a bit later, but or maybe Zhang. I could see Zhang winning the fight on points, but maybe not getting the decision. I could see that. I could see him winning the fight, maybe 8 rounds to 4, 7 rounds to 5, and potentially getting jobbed. I could definitely see that. But I find it very hard to give Joyce the benefit of the doubt. That's the truth.
No benefit of the doubt from Dominic there. Rapping Rob Kelly's jumped on the call. Repeat or revenge, Rob? We're talking Joyce against Zhang here. Some people seem to think that Joe will start off a little bit better than the last time, but will he fall back into the same style he used last time? If so, will the corner have to intervene? There's a lot of scar tissue around those eyes. There always has been. Is he able to change things up enough for 12 rounds to get this win? And welcome to you this evening, Rob.
Cheers, and shout out my old mate Dominic there on the call as well, holding it down. Get a life for us, meeting up outside the pod.
I drove a long way, Rob. So don't you? I know you appreciate that. I know you. Yeah, it was stinking rain down the southeast that night. It was pissing down.
Took him a long way, but he got there in the end.
Anyway, Joyce Zhang, Jesus, I don't know. Like, I think Joyce kind of maybe psychologically bought into his own hype about being unbreakable, like Mr. Glass. You know what I mean? Like, he couldn't be fucking stopped, and like he hadn't faced major adversity up until that night, where, you know, you get clocked a couple of times. He's walking forward, he's walking guys down, and he's the fucking, what do they call him, the juggernaut, and he gets to lads. And like, I bought into the fucking hype too, because I was thinking, like, outside the top guys, like this guy, imagine him and Wilder keeps hitting him and he just keeps coming. But then after you've seen Zhang hitting him, you're like, oh, holy shit, this guy's going to have to learn how to fucking move his head at some stage. And I think, like, he just hasn't done that part. Like, you know, there's certain things like that you can get by with, and you just don't acquire other skills ever. And I think his head movement is one for him. Like, so can they make him a different fighter in such a short time with the injuries? How much preparation has he done? How much different sparring has he done? Because apparently the last time he was doing fuck all, like he was walking on the shot. So there has to be some change from Joyce in order for him to say, because if he fights like that, Zhang will just tee off on him again, you would think. Would he accumulate the same damage with the eyes and that? I don't know. Will Zhang get tired hitting him and maybe fade himself? Like if Joyce could stay in it and become a little bit slicker. Generally, I think it's too much to expect a lot of times with fellas to make massive adjustments like that, especially if they're not fighters who think on the fly. I don't think Joyce is one of those type of fighters. I think he has a certain style that's effective up to a point. So I'd expect the same outcome this time. I think Zhang will get to him late down the stretch, but I actually might even go distance. I don't know. I don't give a fuck, to be honest with you, but you know what I mean? It's a fucking another one of these rematches I wasn't sure I wanted to see, that way. But I'm sure it'll be action packed anyway. I think it'll deliver as a fight, so something to look forward to, I guess.
Mm-hmm. No, I think Rob's right there, Andy. I think it will be an exciting fight. I've been a bit of a fan of Zhang. His work rate does drop off. I know he had the renal failure in the past, and that would do that to you. He's near 40. He's a big unit, 6'8" as well. But he has fast hands, nice southpaw hands, as he showed in the first fight, as he showed in the Hrgovic fight. But again, in the Hrgovic fight, he dropped off. His work rate dropped off towards the end of the fight. If Joyce can get close to him, maybe tie him up, come in a bit heavier, lean on him, deplete his energy early on, try and not stand in range, basically, and allow Zhang to pick him off with those combinations, thinking he can take every shot under the sun. If he can make it dirty and ugly for the first 4, 5, 6 rounds, try to get the jab off and then grab him and push him against the ropes, and then late on, Joyce starts to take over, work rate rise. I'm no tactical expert, as we all know, but that's what I'm thinking might be a good strategy for him.
Well, that's what I was thinking about the first fight, that he'd be gradually kind of like start pouring it on towards the end. But as we saw, mate, he was getting lit up the entire fight. That he just could not defend against that left hand. He was getting pinged out constantly every round, no head movement, just getting absolutely marked up, and then basically stopped. Unless he shows, as Rob mentioned, there's some head movement, but defensive nous, you just can't expect to walk through this guy. Barring again, as you maybe mentioned, maybe a medical issue crops up again, or Joyce catches him with an arsehole winder a shot that he just gets iced in the first open couple of rounds, whatever it is. But he'll definitely need to show something. If he has a slow start and allows Zhang to get comfortable, it's a long night for him. Zhang's got long arms, and if he does time the left hand, and Joyce hasn't learned how to move his head and slip punches, mate, you wonder if it could end up being the same result. But folks saying there in the chat that this guy's been training at altitude and that as well. So if he's also been eating chicken balls with Big John Fisher, mate, he's going to be real amped up for it. Who wants a fucking burger? So we're going to see it. And also as well, we shout out to our man Frenchie in the chat there, slagging off the guys on the call. Frenchie, let's go on the chat, mate. Let's go on the call. Let's hear you talk, mate. Let's get your take on the fight next week. Come on, mate. We're all good friends on about these parts until we're not. Come on.
She's probably still upset about what happened to her in Greece, Frenchie.
What happened?
I like French women though, Rob. Especially those with the hairy armpits. So when they lie back, they look like the 3 of clubs.
So, do you want to say Papa Qua? You know what I mean?
Good stuff indeed. There's nothing on the undercard that's interesting me, to be honest with you, so I'm going to move on from that one. I know Andy's not going to be with us next week. Hopefully Matty will be back from the land of the dead to talk Canelo Charlo. Before we get on to that though, Andy, any interest in this card, which you might be missing? You'll be gutted to hear next Saturday evening on DAZN. Hitchens, as Rob has labelled him, going in against Jose Zepeda. Sandy Ryan's on the undercard as well. Amo Williams going in against Steve Rolls. Hitchens against Zepeda, I suppose. Hitchens is only 16-0. Zepeda's a hard-punching veteran who's upset a few people in the past in the ring, so it's decent enough for fair, I suppose.
Yeah, it's okay, I suppose, mate. But again, Eddie not really delivering the stack cards. He's saving all that money on Canelo, and this is what he's getting us. Jessica McCaskill, 40-year-old, against Sandy Ryan, who's like 6-1. Some sort of all women's unification. It's just nonsense, mate. It's just crap. Austin Williams, no, the first, mate. Steve Rolls, again, okay fighter, mate, but nothing spectacular. And Hitchens is okay, I suppose, in that as well. But Zepeda possibly just seen better days in that as well. I mean, he's been in some fucking hellish wars in that as well. I mean, the Branchik fight took fucking years off his career, but he's managed to get some wins together in that as well. So maybe the Prograis fight was one step too far from that as well. So again, we just need to wait and see, mate. But it's to be fair, I'm glad I'm away next weekend, so I didn't need to watch this shit. To be fair, now, so I'll maybe just catch the highlights on Twitter.
Yeah, another Zepeda says Matt Butters can't keep track. We've gone from William to Jose. We'll keep an eye on both of them, I think. Yeah, so we will be previewing this fight next weekend, but Andy won't be with us, unfortunately. So we'll give his voice a rest a second. We'll go to Rapping Rob Kelly first of all. So for the Canelo Charlo undercard, Rob, I'm seeing some decent fights on the undercard, actually. I know Ugas against Barrios is for an interim world title, but it's actually the other two fights, which I think might be quite decent. Elijah Garcia loves to bang people out. We saw him defeat that Vidal. Oh, absolutely. Look, maybe he loves to bang people as well. I mean, look, we're all friends here. If that's what's going to make a pay-per-view. Jose Armando Resendez, you have been warned there. He split Jarrett Hurd's lip last time. He might be getting more than he bargained for this time against Elijah Garcia. And also, Jesus Ramos, big old unit, going against Erickson Lubin, who's turned himself into a really exciting B-side. Sebastian Fundora rearranged his face. Ramos can punch very hard. I think they have the potential, Rob, to be a couple of decent sleeper undercard fights.
It has a touch of the classic Box Nation days about it, doesn't it? Where it's a card, kind of understated card, but a lot of potential good fights on the undercard. Bit of action there. Yeah, not a bad card. Like Ugas and Barrios is actually a fun fight. I think it'd be high punch output from the two of them. I think Ugas is fucking finished or whatever after Spence shattered his face, but Barrios not particularly massive puncher at 47 anyway, so he might wear him down or whatever, but I think it'll be a good style matchup. And then the others just might provide a bit of excitement in the run up to the main event. Like, but main event is extremely intriguing. Like.
Intriguing main event, Canelo versus Charlo. Dominic, undercard first of all, Ramos, Lubin, bit of Barrios, Ugas, and what was the other one? Garcia against Resendez. Resendez is a good fighter, actually. He's lost a bit of weight. He's moved to Manny Robles on the West Coast. That might be the fight of the night. Those two are going to go for it. And Lubin, as I said, we look at him now, turned pro very young, real prospect before Charlo iced him, fighting his heart out before his face got battered against Fundora. What's the pick of these undercard ones for you, Dominic?
I think Ugas Barrios. I think that could be a fun fight. Again, I don't think Barrios has any. I don't know if he's any business being at one. I don't think he has business being up there. On Lubin, I think Ugas will win that. By the way, I think it'll be a fun fight. I think it'll be Ugas winning. But on Lubin, I remember back in the day, Brian King was a really high on Lubin. Thought he was going to be the next big thing, and then he had that night against Fundora. But yeah, he's fighting this guy Garcia, is he?
No, he's fighting Jesus Ramos, who was last seen beating up poor Joey Spencer.
Oh, I remember that. I remember watched. What was that on the undercard of?
Was that the last pay-per-view undercard, I think.
Was that Gervonta, and I think that was Davis and Ryan
Garcia. Oh no, it was it was Benavides Plant.
That's right. Yeah, I remember it was right around that time of the year. Yeah, and I remember that guy Joey Spencer. He took a real doing that night. That
he got hit so hard. He done a whoopsie on the carpet.
Vintage gag.
I felt sorry for him. I thought he was. They had did they pull him out eventually, didn't they?
Yeah, eventually after about 8 rounds. Yeah.
Oh yeah, they really left it as late as could be justified. So yeah, that's. I fear for Lubin though. I think he's I worry about him. Actually, he is one of those fighters I would worry about. Taking too much. So, I think I would always say, Steve. The PBC in terms of depth, they do put on the best cards. So yeah, I'll actually if that's on Fight TV, I think I might actually is it Fight TV in the UK?
I'm not sure who's picking up in the UK, to be honest. Maybe, let me see, pay-per-view, Showtime, Panama, doesn't say. So I don't know, it'd probably be them if maybe BT Sports probably wouldn't be interested, I don't think. So yeah, possibly.
No, it is. It's a very good undercard. I think that Lubin that could even be probably even better than Barrios against Ugas. So two very good fights. The other one I don't know much about the other one that you mentioned, but yeah, it's a good deep card.
Give us, Dominic, before we bring Andy in, give us a quick rundown in case you're not on next week of the main event, Canelo Charlo. I mean, is it a competitive fight? Is it a good fight? Are you happy that Charlo's moving up?
I think Canelo wouldn't have picked this. He wouldn't have picked them if they weren't pretty sure that he's going to win, especially at this stage of his career. I can see it. I can see Canelo winning a points decision, 8 rounds to 4, something like that. I would say it might not be too dissimilar to the Canelo fight against Donnie Jacobs. I could see something similar to that there. I've been watching that. I've been watching the Showtime All Access stuff on Charlo, and I think he comes across like an absolute weapon. And someone said to me in the chat, "Well, that's because he is."
I've got him for Bellew the week later, don't we?
I think Crawford. I have to say, I think Crawford would beat him if they fought at super welter. I know a few guys in the chat took issue with that and thought that Charlo would be too big for Crawford, but I think he's. It'd be interesting to see actually what he does if he does lose this, as I expect him to lose it. Be interesting to see what he does next. But I think Crawford would actually. In fact, I think Crawford would stop him. I want to say that.
I think Crawford would frustrate him and nitpick him in the first half of the fight, and then I don't think he has the mental strength to compete with Crawford in a fucking long night, like when he brings him to the trenches.
I think that's exactly it. I think there's something about his, as you said, Steve. There's something emotional or sort of over emotional. I think
so intense, isn't he? He needs to chill.
You could see him implode. You could see him I think you could see him. I really do think Crawford would get to him late, I have to say.
I think that's what you're seeing with the brother, isn't it? It's like it's massive intensity. They obviously got well paid by Al Haim and the two of them. They've been thrust into the limelight in America. These fucking idiots were leaving like fucking 40 grand cash in a fucking handbag in a 40-40 club in all New York. Like, they were wilding the fuck out. But I think it's got the better of the older one. Like, that intensity, that always being on. And Harrison was exposing that against the smaller one in his fight, wasn't he? Like, he was saying, like, this guy's fucking emotional. Like, he's well, no, that was the bigger one, was it? I can never remember which is which. Which one fought Tony Harrison?
Yeah, that was this one.
That was this one, yeah. And he exposed, like, and he was saying to him, like, you're talking too much, like, you're doing. The other guy is even backing even louder, like, he's fucking worse again. So I think they live under the limelight and under perceived limelight as well, that they're fucking more famous than they are and stuff like. And I think it's gotten to the older brother. Like, I think he's cracked altogether. That's why we're not seeing him versus Canelo, and this guy's taking his place. Like.
Yeah, Des says, I think Charlo is nailed on to have a Zab Jr moment at some point. You never know. He might start throwing stools about the ring on Saturday evening. Andy, what about the fight itself from your vantage point, what you're seeing here? A couple of points of interest. First of all, the size. Obviously, Canelo, he's matured into sort of this 168, 175 pound fighter, but he comes from a much lower weight originally. Even though Charlo's moving up, he's a big guy. He's got a big frame. He's very tall, so I think he'll carry the weight quite well. As it comes to activity, I think it's going to be quite a low output fight, which leads me to believe it might be more competitive than people think. Because to get on Canelo, like Bivol did, you got to have high energy, high intensity, throw a lot of shots. Charlo doesn't tend to do that. To get to Charlo, you got to do the same, like Brian Castano did in the first fight. Canelo doesn't tend to do that. So I think it could be a battle of the jabs for so long as it goes, and then it might break out late on. But then we've seen Canelo fade late on, whereas Charlo tends to come on stronger. Stopped Harrison late on, stopped Castano late on. He's the king of the rematches. He needs to do it in this first fight. He ain't going to get a rematch.
Yeah, possibly, mate. Again, obviously, the other thing is we always need to factor in both guys are no long off like having hand surgery or hand problems and that as well. So obviously, I was looking through some old notes here. I came across some comments there that I wrote during for Canelo against John Ryder. He said he wasn't cutting the left hook loose as much. You know, that's usually his signature shot, the left hand. Charlo, I don't know if anybody's been catching the All Access episodes, but he's still getting therapy on his left hand as well. So again, maybe guys might be wee bit kind of tentative early doors, no wanting to kind of like let the power shots go too early and maybe risk hurting the hands, who knows. But I think with a wee bit of chess match early doors, mate, to be fair, I think you'll have Canelo possibly chasing him a wee bit. I think we'll see Charlo maybe circle outside the ring. He'll try and pop the jab, but he'll definitely he'll need to have his moments, mate. Definitely, he'll not be able to kind of like move all night. He'll need to stand and definitely land some shots. I mean, he has got the height. He has got a wee bit of reach advantage on Canelo on that as well. So he's just going to try and take the Bivol blueprint, really. Jab, right hand, and then obviously when Canelo's covering up, you've got to try and then cut loose maybe a 3-punch combo, 3-4-punch combo, back out of distance. Canelo's got to reset himself, keep moving. Jab, slide, right hands, and that as well if he can do that. But you say Charlo's quite a slow starter. Canelo can take a wee probing, for a few early rounds and that, and then they can maybe kick off. But I'm not too sure about if it will break out into a fight. I think we'll have moments where both guys are maybe kind of like scrapping, and then maybe come into a clinch, and they've got to get broken up. For me, it's an interesting one, really, because obviously you've got Charlo coming up, but I agree with you, mate. I think Charlo will hold the weight pretty well. He seems to have the frame for it. He'll not need to cut too much as well. So
he walks around at 180. They were saying so.
Yeah, so he's not leaving too much in the gym or in the sauna or whatever it is he's got to do to try and make the weight. So and again as well,
he's 6'1" or something too, isn't he? He's big guy.
He's big unit, yeah.
And he's coming up 2 weight divisions, isn't he? So again, not a lot of weight to cut, obviously. So I just don't know if it's going to factor him. He might be more, more energy. Canelo as well, mate. He's now 33, 34.
That's an old 33, 34.
Yeah, long career.
Say, like
60
pro
over,
for 15.
well over 60 pro fights now, mate. How many?
Very active in the last 5 years as well. Like fucking, how many training camps and up and down weights? Like, and I know he's wind assisted going up and down the weights, but you'd wonder when it's going to implode at some stage. He's just going to go slow or something. Like,
this is what I was going to get to, because as I says, he was quite active there until the hand problem. Obviously, then they come back against John Ryder. Doesn't look the same fighter to me. I think the feet are slowing down, definitely. The output, he can run out of ideas quick. I think we saw against Bivol and that as well. It's a step too far in terms of the weight, but again, he offered nothing as well. Even trying to kind of like change it up doesn't really offer nothing as well. If Charlo can time his left hooks and keep away from the likes of keep away from the ropes where Canelo tries to get you and do some of his best work in that, I think Charlo could potentially spring an upset, to be honest with you. I mean, obviously, maybe not in terms of the scorecards and that, but
what's it say about Canelo's, though, in big fights up to 68 at least? I thought the two performances at 75 without Kovalev was fucking jabbing his head off in the early stages. Of Kovalev was what he was at the time, and then Bivol obviously did what he wanted with him. But in the big fights at 68, he's been fairly devastating. Like, apart from not knocking out the old version of Triple G, he blasted through Caleb Plant and blasted through Billy Joe Saunders. Like, but I agree with you. I think he's slowing down a fraction, and you can see it. Like, so you could like Charlo could get out and outbox him. Like, we've seen him before. I don't think. See, the problem with that is everyone's saying Charlo could outbox him. I don't think Charlo's necessarily the slickest boxer in the world. Where Lara gave fucking massive problems, where Trout gave problems, where Floyd obviously schooled him. That's a long time ago. He hasn't fought too many fighters with that same style since. And I don't think Charlo's that either, is he? Like, he's not that slick. He's not that good with his feet.
He's not in and out. He stands for too long, because that's how Castano had success against him.
Yeah, if he does go to the ropes, he will cut his hands loose, Charlo. That's the other thing as well. But what was also going to mention is his mentality. I mean, we all question, he's a bit emotional, that type of thing. But as you say, Steve, I mean, he's for all those rematches, he's got it correct each and every time. He stopped both opponents, Castano and Harrison, in rematches. He's got his mindset totally right for the rematches. If he gets his mindset correct for this one and that, I think I wouldn't be surprised if there is a potential upset here. That's if he's completely on the ball. I think Charlo could definitely spring it up.
I agree with you, Andy. I think Charlo is a really live opponent. The only thing that gives me cause for concern is the scorecards and that. I know it's an age-old saying, but look at Bivol. He dominated Canelo 10-2. And they still tried to rob him. He only got it 115, 113 across the cards. It was one of the most one-sided fights I've seen at that level.
It was almost 12-0, mate, to be fair. I think it was close to a 12-0 fight you could get. Yet somehow they try. What was it, a 6-4, 6? Fucking ridiculous scorecards.
Mm-hmm. And I've said it before, the last 4 rounds,
It's
Canelo did
interesting
not.
that this
ahead, Donny.
fight's now, he's gone over to the PBC for this fight, hasn't he? So, the Bivol fight was on the DAZN, and I always look at it and say, well, who's going to be the house fighter here? Yes, Canelo, he's a big name. He's come over, and maybe it's baked in that they want to set up the Benavidez fight, but it will be interesting to see what the scorecards are like. If I can't see.
Heyman's not stupid. He's not fucking. They're bringing him there for a reason. He's going to keep having him fighting on Mexican holidays. He's going to fucking generate serious bread. Like, they're not going to jeopardize.
He's the A side, isn't he already?
It'll be interesting. I can't see either man. I can't see a stoppage here. I think it's going to go to the cards.
I think so. Andy, so you're gonna what are you gonna go for then? Bivol, Canelo, and Joyce, Zhang. What's your final sort of predictions? Andy. Can you hear me, Dominic?
Yep.
I think Andy's mic's maybe dropped here.
Sorry, mate, I'm
back.
Did nip away there. Sorry, I didn't catch you, mate. I didn't nip away and grab a drink there, sorry.
No, sorry, I was just saying final predictions. Canelo, Charlo, Zhang, Joyce.
Zhang, I think, wins possibly late stoppage. I'm still on the fence in terms of Charlo, Canelo, but I'll be a pussy and I'll say Canelo wins on points. But I'm sniffing an upset. I might be swayed closer to the time when I get built in at the hype a wee bit, but I've really enjoyed the 2 Access episodes. There is a real respect between these two, actually, to be fair, which is uncommon, actually, to be fair. Usually you get the Charlos talking shit. None of that this time, to be fair. And Canelo really just kind of goes about his business, really, the minimal of fuss, really, so...
Good stuff. Looking forward to it. Hopefully, Matty will be back next week and we will preview it. I was hoping to do a post-fight for Joyce Zhang, but for reasons beyond our control, we're not going to be able to do that. But hopefully, get into the post-fight pod scene again soon. I have been neglected that, I must admit, over the last wee while. So we'll get back onto the post-fight pod scene.
No, Steve. We haven't been neglected it. We haven't been getting the likes.
Yeah, well,
that's the challenge for the likes.
That's right. Yeah,
remember?
Forgot about that. Yeah, that's right. We got 2 weeks in, didn't we?
We needed 1,000 likes and we only got 10.
No, we needed 100. we got like
fuckers,
8.
You know what it is? Not the fuckers, fuck the listeners, but they're sitting in the fucking chat. Just like the fucking thing, will you? Just like hit the like button. It's not gonna fucking kill you. Like, I listen to you every week when I'm not gonna hit like on my YouTube. Fucking just do that.
Algorithm. Need the algorithms here so we get.
And I should stop cursing as well if we really want to grow the show. I'll stop cursing if you start hitting the like button.
Hopefully, so.
Aye. No, you can curse away, boys. Right, let's get on to the belly of the week and get out of here. We've done our best, haven't we? We tried our best. We're talking about Charlo there. Hopefully we won't get... I'll tell you what, every Monday morning, we keep getting for the videos, having to sit and trim out segments and whatnot, so I'm cutting the videos down as best as I can. But we've got Charlo here anyway, making a prediction. So we'll play this one for Belly of the Week, episode 540, and see what happens tomorrow. Hopefully the PBC won't ice us for this one. Charlo, with some shite talk.
If I'd have knocked him out, or I'd have dropped him maybe one time, I think that I would have got that fight.
They are. Castagno fights.
Castagno
fights if I'd have knocked him out or dropped him one time. He's got to got fight. There you go.
Aye.
He's right, isn't he? If he'd have knocked him out, Andy, he probably won the fight.
Probably, aye, definitely, mate. You know, there's every chance that would have happened, mate.
Well, if he knocks Canelo out, he might get a draw, so...
Yeah. Exactly. I said before, Andy, about him getting rematches. The only chance he's got of getting a rematch with Canelo is if he beats him the first time. So,
of course, there's no rematch clauses. I don't think
so.
Anyway.
I don't think so. Anyway,
it reminds me of Stephen Michael Owen, peak punditry and BT Sport, that the team that scores the most goals will win.
Absolutely,
obvious. But then again, with VAR these days, mate, that's not always the case.
That's a good point.
Vatican assisted refereeing. It's brilliant. Yeah. It's doing its job at the moment.
Aye.
Oh, fuck's sake, I forget what I was going to say now. Fuck it. Oh yeah, no, Michael Owen. See Michael Owen. When he got caught sexting one, didn't he? The one sold her story to the paper. She's like, Michael Owen has been sexting me. He sexted me one day when he went off to the races. I sent him a picture of my breasts and he said, They're lovely. Are they falsies?
Why I even ask that question, man? Why just wait till you get there and test them for yourself?
Smooth operator, you Mike alone.
Hey, what, man, he does come across as the most boring bastard out there, man. A date with him must be like fucking watching paint dry, or even listening to it. Fucking hell, man.
Like listening to us on this episode.
Aye, true enough, mate. You remember he actually there was a YouTube video of him doing a flyover of Dubai, I think it was. He's a helicopter pilot. And he's doing like his local tour guide and that, man. I was like, oh fuck, I wish that helicopter would crash right at the sea, man. Skis all a fucking piece. Neville South was a big fan of his, by the way, as well, for what I hear.
Oh, is he really? He's quite vocal in the old Southall.
Yeah. Do you remember that video when Owen's scoring goals and that young goalkeeper? He's about 12-year-old.
Oh, yeah.
And Owen's celebrating like it's a World Cup final. South was like that. He's 12-year-old, you wanker, you know?
Well, talking to wankers, Andy, going straight forward on this first one. I didn't cut the video as I explained, because I'm sick of cutting them out. Did you see this one?
I did see it.
AB throwing hands with a McDonald's worker.
Mate, I cannot even begin to dare even explain what he was saying, man. It was an N-word almost every other word he was saying, mate, and he's just going off that he's McDonald's order's been fucked up. He's like, hey dude, get over here. He sounded like B.A. Baracus, hey woman, get over here. He was
It's a dream of a real man, your apartment every night. You get no shot.
He was fucking raging. And AB, man, you didn't fuck about with that guy's burgers. You just don't do that. You know, or his fries, whatever it is that he fucked up on.
AB, acting the bollocks.
Acting the bollocks about burgers.
He's a character in the AB.
Oh, about botulism actually after that establishment, I'd imagine.
Oh dear.
That's what fucking super Broner is, by the way, because he's that fucking. He was only messing, like, you know what I mean? He was having a prank, like he thought that was funny. Him and his mate, yo, my dude, where's my food, my dude? But the girl was going to call the cops, and the cops in America could come to a situation like that and kill you. You know what I mean?
Without even saying it, you police.
Who's the dude with the fucking shirt off and the belly out here and the fucking bandana? You know what I mean?
B. Baracus' young lost son in there.
Broner looking like Kimbo Slice on heroin.
Nah, that's not right, man. Because look at the gut he's got on there, man. Smart kids haven't got guts like that.
Kimbo Slice of pizza.
Walking with a pair of shorts and a bandana, and I bet he's even got a pair of flip-flops or a pair of Crocs on or something like that. Yeah.
Packet full of Bosch Doms in the...
No, he wouldn't be using Bosch Doms.
No, he doesn't actually. We've seen the fucking photographic evidence.
I've seen the tribes of Waynes that he's got, mate. He's almost got an NFL squad of Bairns, man. 53-man roster.
That's one thing you say about Brody. You can't question his heart.
Yeah. His delivery. Can't question his delivery.
Well, I tell you what, man, he's true at saying the hoodie. He never leaves one in the chamber, man. He's always fucking unloading it.
Oh dear. Shout out to AB. Hellbeard with a good one.
Is this one of your man Ryan Deal's fucking?
No, this is Hellbeard on my Twitter done this one. Matchroom finally commented on the Paul Pogba doping news. There's some doping scandals with Matchroom at the moment. Well, Paul Pogba is not one of them, but this was photoshopped here by Hellbeard.
Can I just say thank you to Matchroom for doing additional testing for catching Paul Pogba?
That's why.
By the way.
That's why they're getting caught. Yeah. Please pay for DAZN because Conor Ben is finished on this app. He says at the bottom there. B-Hop stealing the show. Viva Mexico. Well, how many national anthems was there, Andy, before that Zepeda fight last night?
I never caught the start of that, mate. But I'll tell you what, those two ladies that were on that card, mate, at the weigh-in, smoking. You almost got Matty off his deathbed like Lazarus, man.
What's B-Hop at? B-Hop the alien, is it? Fucking flying saucer over his head. Where's Anthony Crawler?
Richard D. Hall in the background there, man. The mariachi band.
Oh dear. There's one man you need to fish out the guard.
That's a Photoshop.
Looking in shape.
That's a Photoshop,
so sick,
man.
is it?
It's fucking music.
That is very feel.
Oh, when the gad's got his top off like that, Andy, there's only one thing I'm thinking. How about this?
One of the things on my list here to ask you about is you've got a massive tattoos on your legs, yeah? Tell us about the tattoos. All right, there they are. Oh, there we go. Wow.
Yeah, actually, I do.
Tell us about the tattoos.
Okay, well, I mean, I got tattoos on my arms as well, but so I've got a dragon, and I mainly got that one, honestly, for art. But then I've got the phoenix. I'm going to show you this, if you don't mind.
Okay, I'm sure no one will mind.
So that's a phoenix, if you can tell.
Yes, I can see the phoenix, yeah.
Yep. And that is like, I don't know if you know, obviously everyone knows about a phoenix, but a phoenix is the rise of the phoenix. You rise from the ashes, you know what I mean?
So it's symbolic for you?
It's symbolic. Yeah, definitely the phoenix is definitely symbolic for me.
Riveting stuff that was, by the way. I'm sure no one will mind.
It's very articulate there, the way she broke down what a phoenix is. You know, phoenix, this is the fucking rise from the flames, mate.
Yeah.
I get it, yeah, I get it. It's
rises from the ashes, mate.
It's meaningful, symbolic for you, Ebony. I get it. I'm in tune with your rise from the ashes backstory. Fuck off, man, will you?
I wonder
got a dragon? Got a dragon for all?
I wonder if the gad's a pal of Russell Brand, by the way. See me dress the same, by the
way. An awakening wonder.
He's getting paid well off the Saudis, man. We kind of hate him, the man. He's earning that money. He's earning that bag.
We need to keep in with him. Start to get paid from the Saudis ourselves.
Yeah,
when are these Saudis going to come knocking on our door? We're out here, Saudis.
Hashtag Team Gad, I say, Rob.
Great bunch of lads.
Yeah, exactly. We're Team
Great
Gad.
bunch of gads.
Amir Khan was on Twitter, I think it was, on how the banned substance Ostarine could have entered into his body. It could have been from drinking from someone's drink. A lot of my friends on steroids because they want to be big. The new thing is that everyone wants to be on steroids.
That's what I'm saying. Fucking innocent explanation. What's the matter? His friends are on steroids. He's sharing drinks with them. And that's a natural explanation, Amir. Who's definitely not fucking tragically suffering from the effects of fucking CTE, by the way, is he? God help him, like, fuck me.
Yes, he is right, though. I mean, I see a lot of guys nowadays, man, clearly on the fucking growth, man. I mean,
oh yeah, they're all over it.
They're all on it, man. You're saying to yourself, dude, there's no fucking, you're 22-year-old and you are stacked.
Pipe down. Pipe down and close your mouth. You're blinding me with those fucking teeth, asshole.
Oh dear. Yeah, you mentioned Ryan Deal earlier, Andy. He has been on the photoshopping again. Dalton Smith was referring to two of Britain's greatest, Smith's boxing Mount Rushmore. Ryan Deal jumped in and did his own Mount Rushmore. So there we are.
Fucking brilliant. Russ, we'll never forget the guy and Dr. Joseph. Dr. Joseph, fucking brilliant. That's brilliant. Who else could possibly be there apart from him? Oh, that's fucking brilliant.
He's been on rare form, hasn't he?
Natural.
Fucking hell.
He's class, any Ryan Deal. Oh my gosh, shout out. What else have we got here then? Anthony Fowler was tweeting out on the 10th of September at 5-1. What we saying? Yalang, a good thing today, Curtis Woodhouse. 3, Cora.
Big bang, Yalang.
Exactly. Should we put a bet on? Is he ready? But then things soon changed at 20-4. When it comes to horse racing, I'd say the best tip is to keep your money in your pocket. There's no such thing as a poor bookie, but many people lose everything from gambling. Give it a miss, people. You're always going to lose in the end. Thumbs down. They are wise words.
So remember when Anthony came out and says, if you're poor, that's your own fault. So
I take it, Andy, Yalang wasn't the good thing.
Don't gamble your money, Anthony, or you end up fucking homeless like the rest of them.
Not me. I'm beating the bookies. I've had a Paddy Power account for 7 years. I'm €241 in credit. It's been lucrative for me over those 7 years.
Mate, listen to me right now. Fucking Big John's got me a credit in the bank that you've got there, mate.
It's about as fucking good to each of us.
Who wants a fucking burger?
Final one I've got, Andy. Now, you may be concerned, as we all are on the Value of the Week segment, that the Deontay Wilder Anthony Joshua fight might not be coming, apparently. So the haters are saying an AJ Fury fight as well. Who knows? Apparently, thankfully, we've been informed, 2 years ago, that the fights are actually really easy to make. So it shouldn't be a problem, Andy.
Oh, yes.
I imagine they're coming soon. I have it here from a very reliable source.
Deontay Wilder said in his interview yesterday he has no interest in Anthony Joshua and he's irrelevant in the heavyweight scene. I mean, it's baffling. That's why I want Tyson Fury to win, because I know Fury will be up for it. It's only one phone call with me, Bob Arum, and MTK.
Are they easier to deal with in your eyes? So you want Fury to win because it's an easy deal to make?
Fury will fight AJ. AJ wants to fight Fury. Fury wants to fight AJ. Like I said, it's a 2-minute call between MTK and Bob Arum. It's a done deal. But you know, I'm not sure who's going to win that fight. But the comments do worry me that we might be in the same position. I just feel like the winner of that fight is going to be under so much pressure to fight Anthony Joshua that this time it will be unavoidable.
Love it, mate.
2-minute call.
2-minute call. Listen, mate, you can a multi-million-dollar heavyweight title fight is going to take 2 minutes to make on a fucking phone call. Forget your lawyers. Forget all the proofreading of the contract. 2 minutes.
That was only 2 years ago, Andy. You might be right, to be fair. Give him the benefit of the doubt.
We're still waiting, mate. What I got told yesterday, we're 2 weeks away if it gets made.
2 weeks away.
Eddie told us that.
Probably when MTK was still in the picture, it probably was a 2-minute phone call. It was like, yeah, Fury, you're fighting this guy. Okay, Dan. Cool.
I'm getting paid. Well, listen, we're going to pay you 40 million, but we'll pay it to you this way, all right? Eddie gets raging.
Great bunch of lads, by the way.
Oh, I better not say it. Good bunch of lads. Even Ed.
Even Eddie. Those are all the ones that I have got for this weekend. Andy, do you have anything to throw into the party?
Not much, mate. It's been quite quiet. Obviously, Gareth doing the Lord's work over the Fury and Ngannou fight.
Mm-hmm.
# Battle of the Baddest Riyadh season. So Gareth getting well paid from Tenio. Evening, Gareth. Chase that bag, mate. And just kind of following on from Eddie's comments last week, saying Canelo signing with Showtime means all that money saved will go towards making the massive events and the mega fights. Then they piss out that shite on Friday, by the way, that Angel Firo and Erica Cruz Hernandez and that, mate. So really changing the game there again by Eddie. And probably the one for me this weekend, mate. One for the daddy himself, big Malik Scott. Certainly loves himself some Logan Berry's dipped in Bovril. I can guarantee you that. He likes to get his tongue running about it. One for me.
Do we all have to see that, though?
Oh, mate, hey, sorry, it's on my hard drive.
It's in there, right under fucking Sugar Ray Robinson, Cameron Basilio 2, Malik Scott versus the missus, the rematch.
The rematch.
I think they've had a trilogy at this stage.
She came in heavier for the return bout.
I can remember when they were next to the cooker doing it, man. He's trying to turn the eggs in the time.
Working on a lot of things in camp.
Fertilise other ones.
He's some Nick, and Malik Scott, like he's some Nick to turn up to press conferences with a straight face. Yeah, I think Deontay Wilder's. Man, we just seen you shagging your missus. Like, well, let's talk about that. Like, we haven't moved on from that yet. Yeah, Deontay and me have been working on some shit. We've seen what you've been working on, fuckface. And he's charging people for it. And who's buying it? Hardcore boxing fans, real hardcore boxing fans are buying it. Donnie, you know.
Donnie's all that shit, man. Eh? Oh, he looks a bit of Ebony Ivory. That guy, I like
that. Donnie's watching it right now on his fucking tablet with a big fucking green fucking pimp hat on him. Just fucking sitting there watching this. Malik Scott. Greatest hits of Malik Scott.
Donnie's got that in 0.25 slow speed, right? So he's just watching how that tongue maneuvers, trying to get it. You know, you see how you get it flickering there like a lizard. That thing, you know, the speed that takes some skill. Saying the tongue that.
How do you have small talk with Malik Scott? Like, how's things with you, man? Yeah, good. Training Deontay, working on some things.
Yeah,
fucking my wife on OnlyFans.
I've seen that video on Twitter, mate. You're really gonna get them about the yams, mate. All right.
Fucking hell. I mean, look, they're enjoying themselves. Fair play to them. Great bunch of lads.
Will you stand says, can we throw in that prick Ben for getting outed by El Brook for sliding
Tell
into the DMs? We read that one out last week if you were listening. Sorry, Rob, go ahead.
Ever see Charlo's missus? He's winning anyway, whether he loses to Canelo.
Oh.
That's all I'd say about that.
Okay.
Canelo was doing quite well sexually as well, though, Rob.
Of course he is. A fucking Mexican worth 300 fucking million or something. Of course he is.
we fantabolics day as well, you know.
He's a commodity out there.
Ginger pubes.
The mommies catch the red bear fever for sure.
Well, I've tried to remember that sitcom British show. The guy used to say is ginger hair was unacceptable.
Ginger game pubes.
Is it Game On? Is that what it's
Game
called?
On with Samantha Janice, that was.
That's the one.
What
Ginger
a show, by
That was
the
a great
way.
show, that
What
was,
a
yeah.
show. Brilliant.
Ginger pubes, unacceptable, mate.
Oh, going back in time. Any others, Andy, to throw in?
That's fine for me, mate.
Good stuff. Dominic, are you hopeful of AJ Fury getting made? Shout out to MTK. Whatever happened to them?
It's 2 weeks away, mate. We just told you.
It's just too everything. It's too aggressive and too ferocious for Eddie to make any of these fights. That's the problem.
He's bringing the heavy artillery, Steve, to make this fight happen.
All that money floating about now that
mate,
Canelo's left.
all that Canelo money saved behind the bar, mate. It's getting fucking spent on the big fights, the meaningful, massive events, the stacked cards.
Speaking of Samantha Janice, Eddie on Matchroom is like Samantha Janice on Game On, and Eddie on DAZN is like Samantha Janice on fucking EastEnders.
Look at Mark Stanton here. I had a few wanks over Janice in my younger days.
She was peak youth. We were raging to teenage hormones, Andy, when that was it.
Oh, but the thing is, mate, you can't talk like that these days. Not after what's happened to Russell Brand, mate. You got to keep that information quiet. You can't be saying that shit in public these days.
Oh, right enough. Yeah, that's true. Right, back to the boxing, Dominic. Come on.
No, back to Janice, man. Back to Janice.
Janice Battersby.
Any value of the weeks, Dominic, from you?
Probably in the chat with Jim McDonald.
Rob, what about yourself?
No, Malik Scott, man, for me. Who the fuck is he, Nicky? You can't just do that. Like, be a full-time boxing trainer and be just fucking shooting porn casually on the weekend, uploading it to your Twitter. Imagine I was doing that at Box Asylum. How was your week, lads? I'm here to preview the fights. Hey, Rob, let's talk about Wednesday. Forget about Wednesday now. I'm in a different mode. Like, it's fucking weird, isn't it? Like, Malik Scott. What the fuck is he at? Boy said it to the group. I don't even follow him on Twitter. The boy said it to the Asylum chat. Get a life.
Well, at least he's not doing taxi, Hugh, like Ben Davison.
Yeah, well, at least just fucking stick to the taxi.
Unrivaled work, mate. Unrivaled work. Samantha, there you go. A message to your
she
heart.
is.
A message to the loins, mate.
A message to the heart from Samantha there. Right.
Smell an impulse off that picture.
Remember the cans, man, with about 8 or 9 different fucking makes. They were stinking, those things, man. Fucking. Oh, he took me back there, like.
How did we end up on this? Oh, it was Game On, wasn't it?
That's the ginger pubes. That's what it was. That's what we got here. Canelo's pubes. That's what
Canelo. Tangential thinking once again. Here we are.
Canelo to Samantha Janice. ADD Asylum. Isn't that what Matty called it? Oh, dear. Anyway, let's go through them again quickly.
Back in 3 minutes. Mark Stanton, man, you meant me you get older. It's meant to take longer, mate. It's meant to take you at least 3 minutes to get it hard, man.
Need to see her eat breakfast first. Right, we've got AB, we've got Matchroom with the drugs testing, we've got B-Hop, we've got the Guard, the Phoenix is rising, we've got Amir Khan, we've got Boxing's Mount Rushmore, we've got Fowler on the betting scene, and then off the betting scene, we've got Eddie, 2 weeks to flatten the curve, and then we've got Charlo and his shite talk. Who are you going for this week, Andy? Plus all the ones you boys do.
I'm going to go for the daddy, man. I'm going to go for a big Malik. That's just fucking. He tweeted that shit out, man, then fucking deleted it. I mean, fuck. Yeah, the internet never forgets, and obviously it appeared on WhatsApp within 5 minutes of getting deleted, so what the fuck?
Do you ever think the missus is getting fed up of his shit as well?
I'm telling you right now, man, I'm convinced there's learning difficulties with that lassie, by the way. she's definitely not the same age as him, by the way, as well.
I don't know, man. She's a quick learner from what I've seen, Andy.
You dirty bastard.
What kind of age are we talking about?
Mate, I don't know, but Malik Scott's late 30s at least, mate. When they first got together, I swear she must have been at least, I want to say late teens, early 20s.
He's got to be in his
Malik
40s, Scott.
Eh?
He's got to be in his 40s, hasn't he, Scott?
Fuck.
Wonder if Baumgartner and Tony Harrison will do an OnlyFans.
Might do.
Yeah, that shit, man, if that happens.
Don't know, they'd put me off Harrison, wouldn't they? Like...
Dominic, who are you going for?
I'm going for Amir Khan, that one about the drug test.
Oh, yes, Amir Khan. That's a good one. I'm going for Fowler. There's nothing better than he's all over the gambling. He's enjoying himself. He's putting bets on. And then he takes the high and mighty ground whenever he loses all his money about how bad gambling is for anybody. The utter deflation, as MB says. Yeah, I'm going for Fowler. Rob, who you go for?
Yeah, Big Malik, yeah. It's got to be Big Malik. Tweeting his fucking sex life on Twitter. What's wrong with this guy, man? Fuck's sake.
I showed the wife his moves by the way to see if she wanted me to do that.
Was he about it or no?
It looked alright last night.
Hey!
No, it's not about that life. Shout out to Malik Scott and the wife. They are the Belly of the Week winners for episode 540. Losing track of all stuff here. I had one more thing I was going to mention, actually. Yes, Andy, before we get out of here for the evening, 11 years ago this weekend, since the sex put on a clinic, Sergio Martinez, the 15th of September 2012. Can't believe
11 years ago, mate. My God.
That's
I
right,
can remember this one, actually. This was one of the fights we were kind of like, maybe it wasn't a superstarish fight, it wasn't a massive pay-per-view, but I can remember a lot of fans being up for this one because Chavez was obviously protected, but he was also given opportunities he never really deserved. Martinez came up the hard way, didn't he? And he earned every fucking cent he made, by the way. And even then, as the true champion, he came in there as the B-side and his belt had been stripped because of some political bullshit. And he has put on a clinic for 11 rounds. And I remember me and Matty being so confident. We're fucking throwing out money to everybody. So like, I'll take that bet. So confident that fucking Martinez was going to win the fight. And then 12th round happened. And then it got dropped. And my arse started making buttons on the seat. So I thought he was going to get ice, mate. But he pulled it through. But one of the most one-sided ass beatings for 11 rounds, and then almost fell to bits for him. And that was practically, possibly the end of his prime after that, actually, as well, because that's where all the knee injuries happened.
Yep, certainly was. Albert Ross says round 12, I was screaming at the TV, rematch next year, says Jonathan.
Do you remember seeing the build-up to that fight, and you've got Chavez barely training, turning up his underpants, eating cereal at 2 in the afternoon, his dad's in the house saying, you need to train, you need to do this, he wasn't fucking
It's just mad, isn't it? Because if he'd have trained at all, he probably could have got about it there in the last fucking round. Like, and his career would have been so much different. Like, he would have been emulating his father, getting pasted for 12 rounds, landing the shot in the 12th. It would have been made from, like, and he fucked it all up taking cocaine. And he made some poor choices as well along the way.
Dressing like Oscar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Shredding people and was it shredding like a air hostess or something like that, slapped their ass or something like that?
He said that motherfucker is not real.
Do you remember this one at the time, Dominic? It's like Andy says, Martinez absolutely ran rings around him for 11 rounds, and then he was literally teetering on the edge of getting stopped for the whole of the 12.
I almost fell at bits, man. I couldn't believe it.
And he was on the gear as well. He was on the gear. There's no way he would have lasted the fucking 12 rounds. You ever heard Sugar Hill talking about the Andy Lee drug testing situation? They went into the dressing room and that, and they were like waiting for Chavez's drug test to pace, like, and he was like, no. And the WBC were like, well, it is fucking Chavez Jr. here, you know what I mean?
That's right.
Wasn't there all the stuff in the Andy Lee fight about the ring canvas as well?
Yep.
Yeah, there was loads of dodgy
spongy
stuff.
ring and it's shot small ring.
I can remember it was at some sort of mad arena that you had to get a car or a minivan to like to get to the actual decent point so you could walk to the ring.
Yeah. And Chavez came in huge on the night, didn't he?
It was like some fairground or something like that. We held it or something.
It was a 185 on the night or something.
Was he?
It was ridiculous. He was huge, man.
Yeah.
Sure. That's what happened. Whenever July 2015, when Frampton got dropped out in El Paso, the first round, it was a matinee show. So Chavez was fighting on the evening part, and the Frampton fight was on in the afternoon their time. And the ring canvas had been made deliberately spongy for Chavez. He wanted, didn't want his opponents being able to, dig their toes into the canvas and move away. So Frampton flipping, he got under this ring and he was just sinking into like walking on sand. It was all for Chavez.
All for Chavez. The surname carries weight, but that fight, that was class. And Andy's right. After the Martinez one, he went in against Murray. Just about got out alive. And then, of course, after that, he fought Cotto with the damaged knee. And now, Andy, just to close things up before we finish up, he's back on the trail. Wasn't he supposed to fight for some kind of title or something, which got kiboshed there recently?
Yeah, I seen something during the week there actually that he's talking about retirement again, and obviously I think he's trying to get a fight lined up, and if he loses it, obviously he's going to retire. But
No chance, man. Featherweight Arslan can keep fighting, then there's hope for him.
He can fight Russell. He can fight Russell Brand because Sergio's done all this work against domestic violence.
I suppose,
He can fight fucking Sandy Ryan if he wants. He can't let the fucking Falklands go, man. He's an Argentinian. He can fight hard. Like.
In fact, no, Clarissa Shields needs a body and a record, mate. She wants to fight a man. She wants to fight Keith Thurman or something like that. Fight Sergio. He's washed. He's got no knees.
Fight Keith Thurman over who has the fucking worst hairline with a ponytail at the same time.
And Andy, it would be remiss of me not to mention you and Matty doing the punches from the past. Sergio Martinez, Kelly Pavlik there a few months ago. A cracking look back at the career of both fighters and a great fight that was as well.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking. This is Martinez roughly at his peak. Pavlik, I think at this point he'd been up. He'd fought Hopkins. By this point,
he'd lost to Hopkins. Yeah, that's right.
And it just fell apart for him after that. Obviously, got him to come down in weight, and then just the lifestyle. But obviously, he was a massive middleweight, and the weight cut was just too much. And Martinez again just messed him up. Really, he burst his nose up and game to the end. Pavlik is always not the Youngstown guys always are, but Martinez was just a different class that night.
He was. Great fight. Great night. As was Martinez. Chavez. Get on the Patreon if you want to listen to that. Martinez Chavez. We haven't done that one yet, but we might do in the future. That was 11 years ago, almost to the day. Thank you for Andy for throwing that one out to us, and also for coming on this evening, for keeping things going as we always do. Dominic as well. Shout out to him for coming on and rapping. Bob Kelly. Matty will hopefully be back next week. He might be in the hot seat. It might be me. Who knows? Who cares? You'll be back in the chat as well. We'll catch you all again, same time, same place next week for episode 541. I've been Steve Wellings. Hit that like, subscribe, and give us a rating. We'll see you all later. Bye.
We'll never forget.
Golly, that's good at me.
Go to Adam move!
We want to be honest, yeah?
Crying like a little bitch. I've never met a fucking wank that can fight me.
I fell asleep.
You're a fucking bum, you're a fucking asshole.
Rumpo fucking Steltskin.
But allegedly, Oscar Rivas has failed a test.
7 year ain't. I will fucking smash fucking you.
I hope you fucking die.
Be safe.
I love boxing sounds, simple as that.